We'll start in just a moment. Good evening, everyone. And I want to welcome everyone to the Sacramento City Council meeting of September the 28th, 2021. We will call to order. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Here.
Councilmember Mason.
Here.
Councilmember Salazar.
Here.
Vice Mayor Marty Medina.
Here.
Mayor Rico Medina.
Here. And we're very fortunate this evening, and he is graciously our state senator will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening. Senator.
Please join with me while we do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, under God, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. We're going to move to item number 3, public comments for items not on the agenda. Individuals will be allowed up to 3 minutes. It is council policy to refer matters raised in this forum to staff for investigation and or where appropriate. The Brown Act prohibits the council from discussing or acting upon any matter agendized pursuant to state law. If there's any folks, if you could raise your virtual hand at this time, and I'll ask the city clerk to bring you in, please.
Yes, the first is Stephen Seymour or Sandra Perez Vargas.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, it's Stephen. I just wanted to inform the San Bruno community that we're busy opening up an art zone in Tanforan for the purpose of providing the community with a local gathering place for artists and those who are interested in art. Very soon we'll be teaching wood sculpting classes. Ruth Waters, who is an acclaimed sculptor, she's been sculpting since 1957. She's a graduate, 1955 graduate of Stanford, and she has shown her work all over the country. We're very proud to have her on site. She is exhibiting many pieces of her work, and will be teaching students in Tanforan how to sculpt hardwood from basically branches and the stumps of trees. And eventually we'll be teaching oil painting, drawing classes, and mural painting classes on site. There will be 2 locations. The first location, we're in the midst of opening it up. Today you can walk through it. There's not much activity there, but it's on the 2nd floor outside of Target. And I'd like to thank Councilmember Hamilton and Councilmember Mason and Vice Mayor Medina, who have already stopped to show their support. And I'd like to invite Mayor Medina and Councilmember Salazar to stop by at any time. Ruth happens to be on site most days right now, getting things ready, but the doors are open. You can walk in from about 11 to 5. We had 2 weekends where we took part in Silicon Valley Open Studios and saw foot traffic of 100 or more over those 2 weekends that came in to kind of see what was going on. And there's a huge interest from 50% of the people that walked in the art classes that we'll be holding there, in the sculpting classes that Ruth Waters has brought to San Bruno. So I'd like to invite people to stop by and see what's happening. And the larger part of it will all be happening later this year and early next year, but please stop by. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your comments, and that's good to hear. I know I saw it before it opened, but look forward. Next speaker, please.
The next speaker is Jennifer Blanco. One moment, I'm trying to.
Why don't we go to the next speaker and we can come back?
I see her. I think we're trying to get her unmuted. There
Oh,
she is.
sorry. Thank you so much. Hi. Well, thank you. Good evening, council members, staff, and members of the community tuning in tonight. At the September 17th meeting where Mayor Medina was censured, I raised my hand to speak on the censure resolution written during the meeting as it was a new item introduced. I have a couple points here. One, I was not allowed to speak as my raised hand was ignored. This was a violation of the Brown Act, not allowing the public to speak, which is the right of the public. I had the right to speak before or during the consideration of an item. My right to speak during the consideration of an item was violated. Councilmember Medina, I do truly believe and think you were very ill prepared to facilitate that meeting. Point two, as an elected official of the San Bruno Park School District and who was censured last year on June 24th, I really hope you were not looking to us, the board, and using us as an example of how and why to censure one of your own. If you think by censuring one of your own was and is going to bring you to work together as a cohesive group, guess again, because the division within this group is just going to continue. It did on the Board of Trustees. The division just got worse. Many of us out here, including myself, questioned the way the censorship was facilitated. Point three, since the mayor's behavior was the focus, did it ever occur to any one of you to ask him why he behaved this way? Did your staff ask him why he behaved this way? Or did the investigator ask him why he behaved this way? I'm just really curious to know. I ask these questions because knowing this behavior was out of character, it is clear as day for me that that's where the problem lies, but it's apparent you all are choosing to ignore the why, which I find very interesting. As parents, when our children display undesired behaviors, what do we do as parents? We get to the root of the behavior, right? Come on, you guys, this is basic ECE 101. That stands for Early Childhood Education, for those of you who don't know. They offer it at Skyline College. This was a political stunt, and let's keep it real. If you think censuring Mayor Medina is going to prevent him from running in the next election, think again. After my censure, I ran again and I received close to 9,000 votes. Have a good and a productive meeting. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Jeffrey Tong.
Good evening, San Bruno council members and mayor. At the 5:30 special meeting this evening, city attorney mentioned that a city charter must be elected during a regular election. And I would like to know if there is a primary election in March or April or the spring of next year to put a city charter on the ballot prior to November 2022. I believe a city charter would give the San Bruno people a lot more options than simply a district election. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Paul Wipensky.
Good evening. I wasn't able to attend the meeting just before this, but I just got a question that I'd like to have answered sometime in the future. If we go to district elections and nobody in the district runs, what happens then? And then I'd also like to publicly thank Pamela Wu. I had a bunch of questions that she was responsible for on the city staff, and I've never gotten such a great response. I mean, she answered them quickly, thoroughly, and I was just really pleased to have her on the staff, and she did a great job, and I think she should be recognized. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, and thank you for bringing that to all of our attentions about that. That is very much appreciated. Also, we are done at this time with public comments. We're going to move on to announcements and presentations, and I'm going to take it out of order and go to item B and receive presentation from Senator Josh Becker regarding Sacramento update. As you know, this is our state senator at Sacramento, and I can tell you firsthand that he has been busy, and it's like, you know, You run hard, you win, and then he has been running since and working on quality of life issues, from housing to education, transportation, infrastructure. He's also doing a lot of work on the climate, and I've had a great opportunity to have a one-on-one with him and have conversation, and so I can tell you he's been busy, he's been keeping us updated, and we appreciate him taking his time to be with us this evening to just give us some updates, and a pleasure to have you. You're always welcome, but State Senator Becker, please, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you. I'm really grateful to all of you for having me here today. It was a rush, made it sort of just in time, had my water polo game, away game up at Burlingame today, and at high school, so it was a lot of fun, and made it just in time. So I really appreciate you being with, having me here today. In Sacramento, it was my first session, and it was a really eventful one. And, as I like to say, when I got elected, we were projecting a $50 billion deficit, and we ended up with a $75 billion surplus. So I feel like I did a pretty good job my first year. And yeah, it's a little bit of a joke, but yes, we did a great job. But the question was, how are we going to spend this surplus? And we really spent a lot of our time dealing with budget issues, and the issues that we're focused on were quality of life, as the mayor said, education, housing, including homelessness, transportation, infrastructure issues. And so that's what I focused on. My very first bill that the governor signed was a bill that was brought to me by the city of Belmont, but it's really on behalf of all of our smaller cities on the peninsula. I represent 23 cities, all less than 150,000 in population. And this bill was to allow smaller cities to team up to compete better for SB1 funds. What is SB1? This is the highway funds that came from the gasoline tax, and allow us to compete better on projects like fixing El Camino, which obviously goes through many of our cities, or other shared roads like that. So that was really the intent of that bill, and that was my first bill that the governor signed. And since then, he's been signing more of them, including today a bill that I had on intergenerational affordable housing. Traditionally, affordable housing has been either, if you fund it, you can only fund it for older folks or for, say, transitional foster youth, right? So people that are quite young and, say, just transitioning out of the system, but folks of that age. And this will allow intergenerational affordable housing. So in a very contentious issue, this was something that was near unanimous, and the governor signed that today at a ceremony in Oakland, along with a couple other bills, and that was a very fun moment for me. But transportation infrastructure is going to be a big focus. I'm going to do a press conference with Congresswoman Eshoo here coming up in a couple of weeks to focus on now the federal infrastructure money that's hopefully going to pass very soon. How can we make sure the peninsula gets our fair share? We provide a great amount, about 20%, according to my staff's estimates, of the property tax for the state. And what do we get back from it? Not a lot of support, say, for our transportation needs. So whether it be great separation or other regional transportation infrastructure needs, how can we get more of that money here? So that'll be another big focus of mine. And then education, starting everything from early childhood education, where we made a massive investment in something I'm incredibly proud of. We went from a situation where California was frankly a laggard, I'd say one of the worst states really on early childhood education. And with this budget, every kid in California is going to get a year of preschool, and most low-income kids will get 2 years of preschool. So really quite extraordinary. We did it in a way that actually works with and preserves the existing structure, which was so people can have choice around preschools, and that was another big factor. And then we wanted to raise the wages for childcare workers, which have been way, way, way too low, and allow regional cost adjustments so that workers in this area, which are higher cost, can get paid more, say, than other childcare workers, say, in Riverside or Central Valley. And we were able to
accomplish that. Very proud of that effort and raise wages in that sector. So a lot of focus on starting on early childhood education. The Big Lift, I was able to procure money directly, $1 million for the Big Lift, which is a San Mateo County program that many of you know, which is very focused on preschool, but then also intensive summer programs up to 3rd grade, because we know that 3rd grade reading level is critical. If you're not reading at grade level by 3rd grade, it's very hard to catch up. Hold on, I'm going to shut the door here. My dog is barking. You know that problem from Zoom meeting. So early childhood education was a big focus, and then K-12 education, record amount of monies for a school. Hopefully your district is feeling that and feeling some additional funding. I know it's in the midst of difficulty because everyone's stressed. There's not enough teachers, not enough substitutes, but we are providing a lot of additional funding. And I was talking to our superintendent, Nancy McGee. She said we couldn't even really have opened without that additional funding. So that's a big focus. And then lastly, higher education, both our community colleges and additional money for our community colleges. And many of you know, I was an adjunct professor at College of San Mateo, but also for CSUs and our UCs, and particularly more spots, people from this area feeling that, we'd really gone overboard with too many international students and not enough slots. We opened up 900 additional slots at each at each Berkeley, UCLA, and UCSD, and then more spots overall at all of the rest of the UCs as well. So that really has been a lot of focus. How do we use that both through legislation and through the budget to work on those quality of life issues, housing, transportation infrastructure, education. And I do want to mention when the mayor and I met, as he spoke about, he brought to the attention of trash. And a number of you were also on that, mayor. I think the vice mayor was on that communication as well. And the homeless encampments in the same area around 380 and 280 and the off ramp. And we immediately went into action and we're in touch with Caltrans, which, as you know, is a difficult agency to work with. Fortunately, we all know that. But they were responsive and abatement was scheduled. I have not heard if that's been, well, I guess we were talking a little earlier. You said it's certainly better, but I think still work to do. But that's the kind of thing we want to do. I mean, that's what we're here for. So if you see issues like that in your community, please contact my office or contact your city council members here, and they will reach out to us and let us know that there's work that needs to be done. Because certainly with Caltrans, we all know we need to stay on top of them where that work does not get done. So thanks for letting me talk a little bit about that. Last topic I just mentioned was climate, as was mentioned earlier, is a big focus. And I will be representing California in the Glasgow in the climate change talks. And it's really a question of how can we do this? How can we move faster? And let's do it in a way that actually helps the economy, that helps create jobs. As we all know, solar costs have gone down 90% over the last 10 years as our state established programs like the Million Solar Roof Initiative. How can we do that for electric homes, for people who want to electrify their homes and other buildings? How can we provide those kinds of incentives so that we can all participate and we can move much, much faster to address climate change, which we have to do. And the droughts and the wildfires were both a sign of that. I've done town halls on both those topics. They're available on my website, and I'm happy to talk more about that as well. With that, I'll leave it there. Maybe take one or two questions if the council has any.
Any quick questions of the center so you can maybe have dinner? If not, you know what, we really want to appreciate and thank you very much for your time. And we know you've been busy. I guess the one question this council will ask, who won?
It was a very, very close game. My daughter goes to Menlo Atherton. I played Burlingame, down 3-1, came back 1-8-6. So big win. That's a very good team as well. There's a lot of good water polo going on. I'm relatively new to the sport, but there's a lot of good water polo going on in our district.
Well, good, and pass on from the city council our congratulations to your daughter and her team. But again, thank you for being available. I know that I've never had a problem picking up the phone. And Nicole, who's also here, has been very supportive and helpful for us as well. So again, thank you. But try to enjoy the rest of your evening, what's left, and appreciate your time and being here with us tonight.
Sure. I just want to say the last thing is it was a great honor to be there at the groundbreaking for the new aquatic center. That's going to be fantastic, and just, you know, again, hats off to the whole community for rallying in that whole process, and Leslie, my old classmate Leslie Hatamia, for her work with the foundation, and you know, just it was a really, really exciting moment. It was really, really an honor to be there with all of you. And it was my first groundbreaking. My first groundbreaking as state senator.
Well, you came to the right city then, and we appreciate it, Senator, and thank you again kindly.
Okay, take care, everyone.
Have a good evening. All right, we'll go back to announcements and presentations. We'll go up to item A. As of September 21st, 2021, 91.6% of the San Bruno community is vaccinated against COVID-19. The COVID-19 vaccine is free and available without an appointment. Visit myturn.ca.gov or call 833-422-4255. That's 833-422-4255 to find a convenient location near you. And this isn't listed, but I'm going to add an item. And I just wanted to say I did attend up in Sacramento the California League of Cities for the state of California representing San Bruno. But what also happened there was more important than me being there was that our city clerk, Melissa Thurman, was sworn in and assumed her new office as president of the City Clerks Association for the state of California. So on behalf of the city council and myself, congratulations. And we're here to support you. And I know you'll have your hands full, but I think that's great and well done. So, and proud to have you as the president and representing San Bruno too. Now we'll move on to, you're very welcome. Now we'll move on to consent calendar, which is item 5. We have items A through I. Are there any items that a council member wishes to pull for a separate vote? Okay, I'm not seeing any at this time. Is there any item that a council member would like to add a question or comment? I'm seeing none at this time. So at this time, is there any action from council regarding items A through I under consent?
To the chair, I will move that we accept the consent calendar.
Second.
Motion seconded. Salazar Hamilton, roll call, please.
Councilmember Hamilton,
Aye.
Councilmember Mason,
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Marty Medina,
Aye.
and Mayor Rico Medina.
Aye. Thank you
Motion
all.
carried.
Now we're going to move on to item number 6, which is public hearing, and city clerk.
Okay, so this might take me a little bit. It's a very long title, just one moment. Item 6A, hold a public hearing and take the following actions associated with the Bay Hill specific plan. Adopt resolution approving the water supply assessment report for the proposed Bay Hill specific plan. Adopt resolution certifying an environmental impact report and adopting CEQA findings, facts, statement of overriding considerations, and a mitigation monitoring and reporting program for the Bay Hill specific plan and Google Phase 1 project. Adopt resolution amending the San Bruno general plan to ensure consistency with the Bay Hill specific plan. Adopt resolution adopting the Bay Hill specific plan for the Bay Hill area of the city. Waive first reading and introduce ordinance adding chapter 12.290 Bay Hill specific plan districts to the City of San Bruno Municipal Code, establishing regulations for parcels within the Bay Hill specific plan. Waive first reading and introduce ordinance amending the City of San Bruno zoning map for the Bay Hill specific plan area. The end.
Thank you. Good job. Yes, that's why she's the president. So on this item, I wanted to first let folks know that all of the council members have received, I'm sorry, there's a hand up in the city manager, city attorney.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we will be taking items 6A and 6B simultaneous and holding those public hearings simultaneous. So the city clerk needs to read in item 6B at the same time. Just wanted to make that clarification.
Okay.
Ready? I can do this. Okay. Item 6B, hold a public hearing and take the following actions to approve Google LLC's Phase 1 development located in the Bay Hill Office Park. Adopt resolution approving a phased vesting tentative tract subdivision map with lot line adjustments, realignment of Grundy Lane involving vacation of current public roadway and utility easements and dedication of new roadway right-of-way in fee and granting of new utility easements, and vacation of a portion of Elm Avenue as shown on the map for Google LLC's property in the Bay Hill area of the city. Waive first reading and introduce ordinance approving a development agreement between the City of San Bruno and Google LLC, a California limited liability company for the Google project located in the Bay Hill Office Park. Adopt resolution approving an architectural review permit for Phase 1 of Google LLC's development plans in the Bay Hill area of the city. Adopt resolution authorizing various curb marking changes along frontages of 900 Cherry Avenue and 1000 Cherry Avenue in the Bay Hill area of the city for Phase 1 of Google LLC's development plans.
Thank you again. At this time, I just wanted to let it be known that the council have received emails on this project. Most that I have seen up until just a moment ago have been in support of the project. And again, there's one on housing that we just received just a short time ago. So I wanted that to be known that the council has received those. It will be part of the record. In addition to that, on item 6A, I'm going to need to recuse myself due to the fact that I live in proximity of the Bay Hill specific plan, not the whole project, but just within the boundaries of the specific plan, which encompasses all of Bay Hill. On item 6B, there are four bullet points. On the last two, I have been advised by the city attorney that I am able to participate and vote. However, due to the importance of this project, very important project, and how much it's been done, and to have continuity, don't want to create any risk or appearance of not voting on a couple items, but voting on the last two, though I was directed. And at this point, I'm going to recuse myself from items 6A and 6B, and I feel that's in the best interest of the city. So at this time, I will turn it over to Vice Mayor Marty Medina.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I think we're ready to go to staff.
Good evening, Vice Mayor, members of the City Council, members of the public, those both watching on Zoom and at home. My name is Javon Grogan, and I have the pleasure of being San Bruno's City Manager. I will begin our presentation today, but I am certainly backed up by an amazing team of both staff and consultants that have worked diligently on this project. I see on Zoom that we have more than 3 times as many people as normally attends our meetings on Zoom, and there are others watching on the YouTube platform and also streamed via Channel 1, the city's government access channel. So welcome all. This is a very important night for the city of San Bruno. We're here today with the request that came in nearly 5 years ago from YouTube to expand their campus here in San Bruno. As we all know, YouTube's international headquarters is here in the city of San Bruno. And they came in, the first internal staff meetings were held in October 2016 with YouTube's desire to expand their footprint. And in May 2017, the city council approved a contract with a planning firm called Diet and Batia to begin the planning work on what you have before you, which is called the Bay Hill Specific Plan. There's a number of actions, 10, the city clerk read through them. We'll touch on them throughout tonight. I also want to say that there are 2 public hearings, but there will be 1 presentation on all of the 10 action items and both public hearing items. The public hearing item number 1 is with regard to the Bay Hill specific plan, and the public hearing number two is with regard to the U2 Phase 1 development. That also includes a number of actions related to the development agreement. It's also important to note that the actions before the City Council are in the name of Google. Google is the company that owns YouTube. We will use Google and YouTube interchangeably. YouTube is the primary occupant of the buildings that Google owns in the Bay Hill Office Park and intends to be the primary occupant of the expanded campus. But no, as we talk tonight, we will use Google and YouTube interchangeably. It is also important ground setting to know that while the work that was undertaken for the Bay Hill specific plan was done at the request of Google and YouTube and funded by Google and YouTube at a cost of over $3 million for all of the work that has taken place to date, it is extremely important for the public and the City Council to know that the Bay Hill specific plan is a city document. It was done at the direction of the city in partnership with various consultants, albeit the entity that paid for all of that work was Google YouTube, but it is very much a city document and was led and directed by the city. So the presentation tonight is very detailed. There are 12 items on our agenda. I'll go over them really quickly. We'll talk about the objective. I'll introduce the Bay Hill team. We'll provide a little background. We will go through the final environmental impact report and the water supply assessment. We will talk about the necessary general plan amendments to accommodate the additional square footage. We will give a detailed presentation on the Bay Hill specific plan itself, as well as the new Bay Hill permit. We will talk about the zoning ordinance and the zoning map amendments that are necessary. We will also talk about the Phase 1 development. And this, when we begin to talk about Phase 1, what we mean is Phase 1 of a 5-phase U2 campus expansion that is envisioned to take place in the Bay Hill Office Park and over the next 15 to 20 years. The vesting tentative map, the architectural review permit, and various curb markings. A development agreement with Google that outlines various requirements for both Google and the city and provides community benefits, and we will talk about that. Final recommendations, next steps, and questions. So the objective tonight, the city clerk read them. I will not read all of these, but again, 6A, which is to hold a public hearing and take the following actions associated with the Bay Hill specific plan. There are a total of 6 items under item 6A related to the Bay Hill specific plan. Approving the water assessment report and the proposed for the proposed specific plan, certifying the final environmental impact report, adopting a resolution amending the San Bruno general plan to ensure consistency with the new Bay Hill specific plan, and adopting the Bay Hill specific plan for the Bay Hill area of the city. Waiving the first reading of an ordinance that will add language to chapters 12.290 of that will include Bay Hill specific plan districts within our municipal code and various parcels related to that. And then waiving the first reading to introduce an amendment of the city's zoning map for the Bay Hill specific plan. It's also important to note that this is the first of 2 action nights for the City Council with regard to this proposed development and specific plan. The actions that are on tonight include a number of resolutions as well as ordinances. Ordinances, as the City Council knows, requires 2 readings. We have planned for that second reading to occur on October 12th for the 2 ordinances that you have shown on this screen, as well as 2 more ordinances that are part of item 6B. And these are related to Google's Phase 1 development located within the Bay Hill Office Park. The first one is a resolution. I'm sorry, there's 1 ordinance as a part of this. The first one is a resolution approving the phased vesting tentative map, lot line adjustments, and various other roadway, utility easements and dedications and vacations of portions of Elm Avenue. We'll talk all about this. I know that there are thousands of pages that have been provided to the City Council and reviewed by the Planning Commission and various public meetings and online. Waiving the first reading of a ordinance approving a development agreement between the City of San Bruno and Google for this 5-phase development. Adopting a resolution approving an architectural review permit for the phase 1 of Google's expansion. And lastly, a resolution authorizing various curb marking changes along the frontages of 900 and 1000 Cherry Avenue. Bay Hill team introduction. So you have myself, the city manager. You have Mark Zaffarano, your city attorney that has spent countless hours on this project. Pamela Wu, our community and economic development director, who will give a portion of the presentation shortly. Matthew Newbomber, the lead planner on this effort that has been with this project since 2016. Haywan Ritchie, our interim public works director, and Joanna Clark, the associate civil engineer. Supported by a robust team of consultants, this was and is a major undertaking for the city of San Bruno, and we needed to bring in expertise as well as adjunct staff to support and manage this process, as well as legal advice. And so available tonight to answer questions from the city council. This is just a summary of the project team, but these are the individuals available tonight. We have Ed Schaefer from Burke William Sorensen, our special real estate legal counsel, supported various aspects of this project, including the development agreement. Heidi Mickelson from ICF, our EIR consultant. So if we get into any detailed environmental impact report questions, Ms. Mickelson is here. Elaine Costello from Management Partners, as well as Dan Marks, serving as co-project managers for the bulk of the development of the specific plan. Individuals with long backgrounds in city government, Elaine being the former community and economic development director in various cities, and Dan Marks similar. Really provided a lot of expertise and horsepower for this very long effort. Patrick O'Keefe from Management Partners, again, another project manager, really came on to support the negotiations around the development agreement, and that process is available tonight. Taylor McAdams from Fair and Pierce, our transportation consultant. A lot of transportation information has been provided and may be talked about. We wanted Taylor available for any questions. Terry Bottomley from Bottomley Design and Planning, a urban design consultant, is available. There's a lot of urban design and concepts and architectural terms that I will butcher if I try, but we have someone here to support the city council. And lastly, Jason Moody from EPS, Economic Planning Systems, which was the city's economic consultant on the project. So with that, you do have a fairly elaborate presentation from staff, followed by a brief presentation from the applicant. And then we will take council questions on the presentations and then public comment, and then return back to the city council for deliberations and action. Thank you. I will now turn it over to Pamela Wu, the Community and Economic Development Director for the City of San Bruno. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager Grogan. Good evening, Honorable Vice Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Pamela Wu, your Community and Economic Development Director. Tonight, I have the pleasure with the Bay Hill team to provide you the background, and we'll start with the background on the Bay Hill specific plan. How do we get to where we are today? So back in May of 2017, YouTube approached the city and proposing to construct additional office building in the Bay Hill Office Park, which necessitated a need to provide a comprehensive guidance for the entire 92 acres for Google YouTube's growth in the next 20 years. As the plan area sits in the center of several major transportation hubs adjacent to Interstate 280 and 380, and is within miles to San Bruno, Caltrain, and BART station, it is important that regulatory framework for the properties in the plan area is well established. As I previously mentioned, the plan area comprises about 92 acres and is bounded by Interstate 380 to the north, 280 to the west, San Bruno Avenue to the south, and a TCP transit corridor plan area boundary to the east. The plan area does not include the two properties along the intersection of El Camino and San Bruno Avenue. This is an aerial shot, and I'm sure everyone is familiar with this picture, showing the current configuration of the Bay Hill specific plan area. As I mentioned, 380 is in your backdrop, 380 is on your right, 280 is your backdrop. And the reason Google picked this area is that the Bay Hill Shopping Center has been established. The Bay Hill office area has been established since 1970, given that this is the city's premier employment hub, where it's home to YouTube, the headquarters, in addition to Walmart.com and the police credit union. Within the Bay Hill specific plan area, a total of 2.46 million square feet of additional regional office development is proposed. And we're also proposing to maintain the Bay Hill Shopping Center, the retail uses that's convenient to the San Bruno community, and would be able to accommodate new or expanded hotel uses. With the housing overlay, there will be a possibility to provide a total of 573 housing units, and then it will provide a development design standard for the planning area that will shape an enhanced public realm that provides for transportation and infrastructure improvements. The plan implementation through the adoption of the amended general plan and the new Bay Hill zoning district will clarify use clarification and regulations. This is a chart showing you how has the city staff and the Bay Hill consultant team spent the last 5 years. So the journey started right around mid-2017 at YouTube's request to start the preparation of the specific plan. Right around 2017 to 2018, there were countless public meetings and workshops held with members of public that guided the vision statement, provided guiding principles, and prepared a alternatives report that really was a community-driven process. By October 30th, 2018, City Council and the Planning Commission held the very first joint study session that provided a preliminary direction on the specific plan, options, and also policies. Not too long after that, in December of 2018, Council also selected specific plan preferred alternative analysis to be included in the draft EIR. Fast forward to July 30th, 2019, City Council had the second joint study session with Planning Commission to get an update of what's going on the specific plan, the draft EIR, and the proposed phase 1. Who can forget what happened in 2020? COVID hit us, but we did not stop working. In July of 2020, City Council provided direction to staff to incorporate a formulaic community benefit approach in the specific plan. Coming over to 2021, which is a busy year, in January, staff released the draft specific plan and the draft environmental report in January, followed by a 45 comment review period where the Planning Commission received the comments from the members of public in February, and then followed by a meeting to the ALUC in March. And also the TSPC committee considered the curb markings in May, where Planning Commission forwarded a favorable recommendation to City Council unanimously and on August 17th. As City Manager Grogan mentioned, after a long and exhaustive process, close to 5 years in making, City staff and consultant team worked diligently to embrace the community's vision as identified in the draft specific plan. We're proudly announce to you that we're at the one of the 2 hearings where City Council can formally approve the project. With that said, I am going to turn the table to Elaine Costadello, who is the lead consultant from Management Partners, who will walk you through the specifics of the Bay Hill specific plan. Elaine, are you on?
I think we were going to do the EIR first.
I am so sorry. You are right, Elaine. I am looking at the slide and it says EIR, and I read it wrong. So Heidi Mackelson from ICF is going to do the EIR and also the water supply assessment report for us. Heidi.
Yes, can everyone hear me okay? Can you hear me? No.
Can hear you. We can hear you.
Oh, you can? Okay, great, thanks. Okay, so thank you, Pamela. Good evening, Vice Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Heidi Meckelson. As staff mentioned, I'm the city's EIR consultant with ICF. I'll be presenting you tonight with a brief summary of the final EIR analysis and conclusions, which includes the water supply assessment. Next slide, please. The EIR consists of a draft EIR and a final EIR. The draft EIR was released on January 14th, 2021 for a 45-day public review and comment period. The EIR includes a program level analysis of the specific plan and a project level analysis of the phase 1 development. With this approach, the EIR provides the environmental review that is needed under the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, to support both the adoption of the specific plan and full entitlement of the phase 1 development. This approach also allows the EIR to serve as a program level document that can be used for streamlining future environmental review for projects within the specific plan area. For the program level analysis, the EIR defines two build-out scenarios, the maximum office scenario and the maximum housing scenario. The maximum office scenario assumes that the maximum amount of office space, approximately 4 million square feet, is developed and no housing is developed within the housing overlay. Conversely, the maximum housing scenario assumes that the maximum number of residential units, which is 573, is developed within the housing overlay, and the office density is reduced accordingly to about 3.5 million square feet. Each topic in the EIR evaluates the impacts of the worst case build-out scenario for that topic. It's important to note that the city is not being asked to approve either the maximum office scenario or the maximum housing scenario. Rather, these are scenarios that were created specifically for the purposes of the EIR analysis. The actual build-out under the specific plan would likely be a hybrid or a blend of these two scenarios. As required by CEQA, the EIR also evaluates 3 alternatives, including a no project alternative, which assumes no changes to existing conditions, a residential alternative, which would allow up to 1,499 residential units, and an increased height alternative, which would increase allowable building heights on the project site to 70 feet or 5 stories, and would require a voter-approved modification to ordinance number 1284. The increased height alternative, which was studied at the request of council, would allow up to 1,070 residential units. Next slide, please. CEQA establishes 4 levels of environmental impact. Impacts where there's no impact, impacts that are less than significant, impacts that are less than significant with mitigation, and impacts that are significant and unavoidable. The term significant and unavoidable is established by CEQA, and the lead agency can only make this finding after identifying and incorporating all feasible mitigation measures and alternatives. In deciding whether to certify an EIR and approve a project, the lead agency's focus is generally on impacts that are found to be significant and unavoidable or less than significant with mitigation. In the case of the specific plan and the phase 1 development, several impacts were determined to be less than significant with mitigation, shown here. These include impacts on air quality, energy, greenhouse gas emissions, hydrology and water quality, and noise. There are other impacts that were found to be less than significant with mitigation that are not listed on this slide, and those include impacts to utilities and service systems, and in the case of the phase 1 development, transportation. Next slide, please. Impacts that were determined to be significant and unavoidable are shown here. All of the significant and unavoidable impacts would result from the specific plan. The EIR analysis found that the phase 1 development would not result in any significant and unavoidable impacts. The significant impacts for the plan include air quality impacts associated with both criteria air pollutants, which are pollutants that are regulated under the Clean Air Act, and toxic air contaminants, which are localized pollutants that can cause health effects on sensitive receptors, such as diesel particulate matter. The It's important to note that the EIR does include mitigation measures that could mitigate these impacts to a less than significant level. These include measures that require developers to pay offset fees for criteria air pollutant emissions that exceed emission standards, and a measure that requires the preparation of project-specific health risk assessments for projects that would emit toxic air contaminants within 1,000 feet of sensitive receptors. If these mitigation measures are successfully implemented by future projects, air quality impacts could be reduced to a less than significant level. However, because we don't know with certainty at this time whether the specific offsets that might be needed for any given project would be available, or whether health risk assessments could fully mitigate the toxic air contaminant impacts of any given future project, the EIR conservatively concludes that these impacts would remain significant and unavoidable. The EIR also concludes that transportation impacts associated with vehicle miles traveled would be significant and unavoidable for the specific plan. This is with the implementation of mitigation that requires tenants to implement transportation demand management or TDM programs. In order to have a less than significant VMT impact, a TDM program would need to achieve a 43% drive alone rate. And while this could be possible for some tenants, including YouTube, which does have a very robust TDM program, the EIR recognizes that not all tenants would be able to achieve this level of trip reduction and determines that the impact would be significant and unavoidable for the specific plan. Lastly, when an agency approves a project that would result in significant and unavoidable impacts, CEQA requires the agency to adopt what is called a statement of overriding considerations. This is one of the actions before you tonight. The statement of overriding considerations is included in your agenda packet, and it describes the reasons for approving the project despite its significant environmental effects. These can generally include economic and policy considerations, such as job creation and housing development. Next slide, please. Moving on to the contents of the final EIR, the city received a total of 11 comment letters on the draft EIR, including 4 letters from public agencies, including the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, Caltrans District 4, the SFO Airport Land Use Committee, and the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission. 2 organizations, the Sierra Club and YouTube, also commented on the draft EIR, and the city received comments from 9 individuals at the February 16th Planning Commission hearing. The majority of the comments that were submitted in response to the draft EIR were actually comments on the specific plan, requesting clarification on the specific plan requirements and various other plan details. Chapter 3 of the final EIR includes written responses to all of the comments received. Some revisions were made to the draft EIR, including some of the mitigation measures, either in response to the comments or as staff-initiated changes. These revisions are included in Chapter 4 of the final EIR. All of the revisions that were made to the draft EIR clarified or amplified information in the draft EIR and do not require recirculation under CEQA. I'll also note here that the final EIR appendices include an addendum to the water supply assessment, or the WSA, that was prepared for the project and included in the draft EIR. The city did not receive any comments on the WSA, but staff elected to prepare the WSA addendum in recognition of the fact that the statewide landscape regarding water supply, as I'm sure you are well aware of, has changed quite notably since the original WSA was prepared in 2019. The WSA addendum, which is based on the city's draft 2020 Urban Water Management Plan, which is scheduled for approval later this year, confirmed the findings of the original WSA, that is, that sufficient supplies would be available to serve the project, including under dry year conditions. This would be with implementation of the city's water shortage contingency program. The WSA, as amended by the WSA addendum, must be adopted by separate resolution prior to project approval in order to ensure that the project is in compliance with the California Water Code. Lastly, to certify the EIR and approve the project, Council must adopt the required findings under CEQA and the mitigation monitoring program, which includes the final mitigation measures that will be required for development under the specific plan, including the Phase 1 development. Each of these items is also included in your agenda packet. And with that, I will hand it back over to the team to talk about the general plan amendment.
Thank you, Heidi. As Heidi mentioned, the next plan in the long order of action is the general plan amendment. And while we're doing a general plan amendment, this is to ensure that there is a vertical planning document consistency. The general plan amendment focuses on the introduction of new land use destination and a new zoning district that has been provided in the Bay Hill specific plan. Specifically, we're creating a consistency to make sure that Bay Hill Regional Office and the Bay Hill Neighborhood Commercial Land Use Districts are documented in the general plan, as the general plan has been prepared prior to the adoption of the specific plan. We want to make sure that there are other minor text amendments that the two documents are consistent. Now I'm going to turn over to Elaine to talk about the Bay Hill specific plan.
Make sure I'm on video and that people can hear me. Vice Mayor and members of the City Council, my name is Elaine Costello. I'm from Management Partners, and I've been a project manager on this project. And I want to start off, the specific plan starts off with guiding principles. And those principles were developed, really built on the work that had been done with the community in 2017 and 2018. The vision statement, the guiding principles document, and then later from 2017 to 2020, there were several meetings with the City Council and the Planning Commission where we also got input. And from that, we developed these guiding principles, and they have really guided the creation of the specific plan with a focus on a mixed-use walkable district, quality design and enhanced public realm, improving multimodal mobility, in other words, relying less on the car, fostering housing development, which does not currently allowed in the area, integrating the development pattern. Next slide, please. The plan is organized into 7 chapters and a very robust appendix about all of the road improvements. I'm going to go through each of those chapters briefly and give you the highlights of what's in the plan. Next slide, please. Can you hear me, Pamela? Okay.
Okay, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Really a really key component, kind of the building block of the whole plan, is the office development policies. And this is a uniquely good location for new office development. It's an existing office park, for one thing. It has unusually good access to both regional road transportation and transit. Both BART and Caltrain are easily accessible from the site, which is very unusual. And finally, YouTube has an interest in creating a campus. YouTube owns most of the land in the planning area, in the office part of the planning area. It owns 10 of the 13 lots. And it has also had an excellent track record of being able to implement very successful programs to reduce the number of single occupancy vehicles and the traffic that new office development creates. So with all of that in mind, the plan permits 2.46 million square feet of additional regional office development. That development is allocated on a parcel by parcel basis. And as Community Development Director Wu mentioned earlier, we are doing this, it's a 20-year plan. And so we know that things are going to change over that 20 years. So the policies also allow a limited transfer of office development between parcels in order to accommodate any changes that will be needed to take place over time. The next slide, please. So you can see the light orange here is the areas, everything that's shown in light orange is actually designated for office development in the plan. But there is more than just office development. If we can just keep this slide up, I'll go through the next. There's also retail and hotel uses that exist within the plan area. There's an existing Bay Hill shopping center which we heard through all of the public input was very valued by the community. So the plan requires that the square footage of commercial be maintained, even if the shopping center is redeveloped, it still has to maintain the same level of retail square footage, which is one of the policies of the plan. The plan also accommodates new hotel and expanded hotel uses. So another area of flexibility, we did allocate square footage by parcel, but we left some square footage, about 181,000 square feet, unallocated, and give a priority to new hotel and retail for that use. And finally, I think we can go to the next, well, we can stay on this one, thank you. As you see where there's kind of hatching, residential has not been allowed in this area in the past. And we knew from the work that we had done with the council and with the community that there was a desire to allow housing in the plan area. So the group that worked on, and this was very much of a team effort, the team that worked on the development of the specific plan looked and thought, where is a good location for residential? And the plan recommends that new residential be shown in the hatched areas along San Bruno Avenue, where it's across the street from existing residential. And we think that's a good way to integrate new residential with existing residential. So those two residential overlays allow 573 units. Of that, 210 can go into the Bay Hill mixed-use overlay at the shopping center, and 363 can go in along San Bruno Avenue at 801, 851 Traeger, and 1111 Bay Hill Drive. So the plan allows we can go to the next, we can go to urban design, please, which I think is the next slide. Okay. The plan is allowing a lot of development. And so it was a focus of the team to make sure that that development would be successful and would be attractive. And we knew that was one of the key objectives. So if we can go to the next slide, which I think is a plan of the streets. Yes, okay. One of the key things in the plan is to enhance the pedestrian environment. We realize we want people to drive less, to get out of their car and walk around or use a bicycle. And so we want to make this an attractive area for people to walk. The big focus of the plan was to make the streets more attractive and walkable and enhance pedestrian environment. There are requirements for street trees throughout so that people can walk in shaded areas in the summer. There are planting strips between the pedestrian and the traffic that will also be used for stormwater management. There's pedestrian-oriented street lighting. And in some locations, and that's on all streets, and in some locations along Bay Hill, and they're shown with the thicker green line here, along Bay Hill and Elm and Traeger, there's something more. There's something we call greenways, which are continuous, publicly accessible, privately owned, and maintained linear open spaces where people will be able to sit and walk, and it'll be an even more enhanced area for the pedestrian. But in addition to these kind of improvements along the street, we wanted to the plan also creates some other kinds of open spaces. Very important, at the corner of Grundy and Cherry, there is an existing plaza. That plaza will be redesigned as the Cherry Avenue Plaza, redesigned to make it enticing and inviting to the public, and it will be publicly accessible, but while it will still be privately maintained. In addition, YouTube will have their own private open spaces, interior courtyards, etc. There will be a lot of development, and so we paid attention to the building design as well. And the urban design chapter has policies that design features to reduce the impact of large and long buildings, reduce building massing. Remember, one of the really nice features of this plan as it's redeveloped, as the area redevelops, is that the parking will all be underground, so that it will be a more active area than it is now, where there are a lot of parking lots. And we tried to really take advantage of that change in the plan. So if we go forward, I think maybe one or two more slides. There we go. So just to give you some pictures, some drawings of what this is going to look like. The first one is kind of what an enhanced pedestrian environment along the offices is going to look like, and with that planting strip between the pedestrian and the car, with the new bicycle enhancements, and then the wider sidewalks and mixed-use commercial environments, and the buffer landscaping and prominent building entrances and stoops in the residential environment. Go into it on the next slide in just a little bit more detail. I want to show you kind of what an area, this is actually kind of looking at what Traeger will look like when it's redeveloped. And as you can see, a typical frontage where there isn't a greenway would have a 30-foot average setback with a 10-foot minimum setback, but it would also have all the things we've talked about, the street trees, the curbside planters, the pedestrian-oriented lighting. And on the right side of this graphic, you can see a greenway condition, which is larger, and you can see that there's more pathways where people could walk in and sit. And in those areas, there's a 30-foot minimum width and a 60-foot for some expanded open space areas with even more enhanced landscape and pedestrian amenities. It's going to be quite an active and attractive area. We did build in a little flexibility in the greenway with requirements to adapt. Again, we're constantly looking at knowing this is a 20-year plan and there needs to be some flexibility. So that's kind of, that gives us I hope gives you a sense of what's happening with the urban design chapter. And when we get to the next part, we can do the next slide. Okay, what are we going to do about access? This is a specific plan. So actually in a specific plan, this specific plan is very specific. It looks at every road segment, and we just show you the areas that are outlined in yellow. There's a lot of detail in the plan about what's going to be done to enhance bicycle facilities along Bay Hill Drive and all of the streets, enhance pedestrian crossings. So for example, there'll be pedestrian beacons, which will make it safer for people to walk throughout the area. The area will be much safer for walking than it is right now, and it'll become more comfortable. The safety of pedestrians, medians where people can find refuge. It's kind of an elaborate term, but basically where someone, if you can't make it all the way across the street, you have a place to stand if the light is changing. These are the kinds of traffic control devices, new traffic control device there at the corner of Traeger and San Bruno Avenue. Very elaborate. You see changes at the corner of El Camino and Bay Hill. The plan goes into a lot of detail in terms of what should be done with all of the roadways to create the kind of multimodal environment that the guiding principles and that the community has asked for. The next slide, please. We also wanted to look at how are we going to make it, how is the plan going to make it easier for transit? As we said, YouTube has a very robust program of shuttles, but we wanted to make sure shuttle buses, we want to make sure that it's very useful in terms of reducing the amount of road traffic, of car traffic, but we wanted to make sure that we created an off-site multimodal facility, which will be in phase 1 between Bay Hill and Grundy, and it will accommodate the U2 buses off the city streets. And we also are looking at some transit stops. As development goes on, we'll be looking at what kinds of improvements, and the plan describes the kinds of improvements that are needed to encourage the use of transit, both public and private transit. Also, we do know people will be driving. Some people. So we made sure that the plan ensured consistency with the city loading and parking standards for both vehicle and bicycle parking, so we won't have the problem of parking in neighborhoods, overflow parking going into neighborhoods. Next slide, please. So we knew that we've done a lot in the plan to just encourage people to get out of their cars and bike and take transit and walk, But we also have requirements, some of which are dictated by state law and came out of the EIR, which requires that we look at the vehicle miles traveled per capita. And to keep that simple, we'll just say, as Ms. Mickelson from ICF said earlier, we have to get new development will have to get to a point where 43% of new trips, 43% of less of new trips can occur by single occupancy vehicle. The rest of them, the majority, have to use some other alternative, public or private transit, carpools, whatever. So that's a pretty high requirement. And in the plan, there is a whole system for property owners monitoring the trips, reporting the results. We have a vehicle mile VMT monitoring and mitigation plan. And if the property owner does not meet the threshold, the city has the ability to initiate mitigation payments. So there are actually pretty strict requirements to make sure that we are not the majority of people are arriving at the site out using something other than their own single occupancy vehicle. Next slide, please. And we knew it was important. The general plan has standards about the level of service, the flow of, we know people will be driving. What is the flow of traffic? And how we looked at, the plan looks at 15 intersections and did studies of the level of service analysis at the AM and PM peak for all 15 of these intersections. From that, next slide, please. We developed a number of traffic flow improvement projects. They're really, a lot of them are focused along San Bruno Avenue, and especially the relationship between San Bruno Avenue and 280. But also we have a signalized intersection at Traeger in San Bruno. And another really important thing in the plan is that throughout, at each subsequent phase of development, all major signalized intersections be looked at to optimize signal splits, because that can really help how you signalize cycle lengths, all that can help the flow of traffic. So we've included that. And as a result of all of these improvements, next slide, please. Hi, next slide. Can you hear me? Okay. The plan has a projection of what that's going to mean in the future in 2040. Remember, it's a 20-year plan. What will be the effect on all of these intersections, of all the improvements and the focus on having people not drive their single occupancy vehicle and use alternatives? What's the likely impact to be? And as you can see, there are intersections, most study intersections will experience more delay in the future. It's minimal at most cases, it's less than 10 seconds. There are places in the morning peak in particular that intersections like Cherry Avenue and Bay Hill Avenue and Bay Hill Drive and San Bruno Avenue and Elm will have a longer increase in the delay. And there's a couple of cases where, for example, with the Traeger Avenue signalization, there'll actually be, once that is put into place, a slight decrease in delay. So we have really, really studied the whole issue of access from all the different modes. The next slide, please. The next chapter in the plan, which we also really carefully studied, taking a lot of time on this, was infrastructure improvements. We wanted to make sure that new development would be constructing or contributing their fair share of money to needed improvements to support new development. Next slide, please. So for example, on water supply and distribution, as Ms. Mickelson pointed out, the improvements are adequate even in a drought for this project. But there are improvements that will be needed over time. For example, upsizing water mains and adding water storage capacity to meet supply and fire flow requirements. And we detailed all of those in the plan. We also, to try and really worked on trying to reduce the demand for water by new development by installing and requiring the installation of water efficient appliances and fixtures. Similarly, we paid careful attention to wastewater, requiring hydraulic modeling when relocating main pipelines or changing them, and that the wastewater main within Grundy will be realigned. Stormwater was an important aspect. How do we and the plan requires that every project demonstrate no net increase in stormwater discharge to the public system. That's zero, no net increase, which requires the incorporation of low impact development design, sustainable landscaping to reduce irrigation and runoff. Put a lot of time and attention into that. The other topics that this chapter covers are dry utilities. We talk about parks, police, fire, library, and schools. The next chapter, next slide please, is the environmental quality chapter. And here the plan really builds on the work that was done in the EIR. So we took we took the mitigation measures from the EIR and incorporated them into the plan on these topics. Noise to mitigate the impact from the airport, freeways, hazardous materials, air quality, greenhouse gases was a major emphasis. And so, for example, the plan requires that electrical, space, and water heating and solar roofs. We spent a lot of time on groundwater to ensure that the existing groundwater is protected. Similarly, archaeological and paleontological resources and the safety that the projects are built in a safe geological manner. Next slide, please. Okay, one of the great things, I'm biased, but one of the really useful things about doing a specific plan is that unlike a lot of other planning documents, it pays a lot of attention. In a specific plan, you're required to pay a lot of attention to what are things going to cost, when are they going to be developed, how is this all going to be implemented, and who is going to pay for it. And so the implementation chapter is quite robust on this issue. So if we go to the next slide. Okay, the goal of the implementation chapter is to ensure that development will pay its own way. We looked at all the infrastructure and service costs. The plan establishes an area development impact fee program for this planning area for the public improvements, capital improvements that will be required, and those are listed below for a total of 42 million, of which the specific plan area pays about 13 million. We're also requiring the establishment of right-of-way maintenance agreements so that the developers, the property owners maintain the sidewalks and the lighting and the landscaping that they're putting in. And we also identify where we're going to get dedications and easements. Next slide. One of the important things in this specific plan, and this was something that was brought to the City Council last July of 2020, is a community benefit program. What we've been talking about in the specific plan up till now is really how are we going to accommodate the needs of the development itself. And this talks about how does this development make a contribution to improving the rest of the community that goes beyond its specific impacts. So there's a community, the council last July authorized the city staff to work on and incorporate a community benefit program and laid out what that program should basically entail. And it applies to not new development. It applies to development that exceeds what's allowed under the existing zoning. And it'd be indexed to inflation, but office will be paying $35 a square foot of gross building space. That's where they're getting additional square footage above the existing zoning. And residential will be paying $10 per net square foot. There are some exemptions for small projects and affordable housing, and the developer, because the specific plan has so many community benefits of ensuring that all the improvements that are needed are actually identified and paid for, the developer receives credit for payments toward the cost of preparing the specific plan and the EIR. That policy is in the specific plan. Next slide. So the revenues that we estimate from the specific plan build out, from one of the columns here is called amount included in the YouTube DA. So we know now from the development agreement, which will be covered in more detail later in the presentation, how much YouTube is going to be paying under each of these categories. The area development impact fee that will be a result of this specific plan and is a policy of the specific plan. It's a new program. The citywide development impact fee, which the city already created a few years ago, that will be bringing in, for example, $36 million from YouTube over the life of the project. The affordable housing impact fee and the community benefits, so that, for example, YouTube over the life of the project, if it's all built out as office, would be contributing $56 million. So between what's YouTube will be paying and what's from other developments, the total in today's dollars is $141 million based on maximum office development only. We had to pick one scenario, and that's the one that we used to create these estimates. Next slide. I think that's it.
That's it.
Thank you. I'm going to turn it back to the staff.
Thank you, Elaine. Can I advance my slide? There we go. There you go. So thank you, Elaine. So we'll be going over the next section, which is the proposed zoning code amendment. So as I mentioned earlier, because the Bay Hill specific plan has introduced new zoning district and also new development standard, specifically the Bay Hill Regional Office, the Bay Hill Neighborhood Commercial Zoning District, the residential overlay and mixed use overlay. Part of the project is also to introduce a new zoning chapter in a zoning code that specifically dovetails into the Bay Hill specific plan. And this will provide a consistent development standard for all of the properties, whether they're Google owned or non-Google owned, such as the shopping center, so that there is a consistent development standard for future development. As I mentioned, the Bay Hill specific plan zoning ordinance will address the unallocated or allocation of new development transfer of the square footage. It will provide setback, height, lot coverage, minimum lot size, and in addition to building mass, landscaping, lighting, roofing, solar panel, you name it, it's all in the zoning code district, in the new zoning code amendment. So with all of the regulatory framework in mind, Google has also proposed to do what we call the phase 1 development project concurrently. And the phase 1 project will be almost like an expedited construction project. So with the specific plan in place, Google will be able to start construction right away. With that said, the phase 1 development includes the construction of 2 3-story office buildings totaling 440,000 square feet and a 3-level subterranean underground parking on the surface lot adjacent to existing 900 and 1,000 Cherry. There will be a total of 1,896 parking spaces provided, which replaced existing parking at the 1-to-1 ratio at 900 and 1,000 Cherry. And then all of the new construction will provide a minimum of 3 spaces per 1,000 square feet per the parking code for any office use. And all of the on-site parking will be accommodated via standard parking spaces or tandem parking spaces or parking mechanical parking lifts. This illustrates a photo simulation of what the 2 3-story office building looks like. And in the phase 1 development, Google has also proposed the request of an architectural review permit, a vesting tentative map, as well as the current markings along Cherry Avenue and also on Grundy Lane. Part of that also includes realigning and also straightening the Grundy Lane. If you saw the map before, it's not a curvilinear road on Grundy Lane, but it's being straightened. And also it will be providing what we call a off-street multimodal transportation hub for all of the YouTube employees. That will be within the planned area. They will also improve what we call the Cherry Avenue Plaza at the northeast corner of Cherry Avenue. This will be a publicly accessible, privately maintained public space The picture on the right upper corner is a depiction of the Cherry Plaza area. There will also be curb marking along Cherry Avenue and Grundy Lane for a bus stop or passenger loading as such to facilitate the different uses in the planned area. Lastly, the buildings located at 1150 to 1250 Bay Hill will be demolished to accommodate temporary parking. Again, this is a photo simulation provided by the Google design team, gives you an idea of what the building looks like. Going down on Grundy with the two new office buildings on either side, where there are pedestrian enhancement, landscaping, trees, the bridge that's connecting the two buildings, an ideal conceptual drawings. As I mentioned, part of the entitlement includes a phased tentative map, and while we're doing that, the reason for doing a tentative map is to realign and strengthening Grundy Road, which affects several parcels that are Google owned, actually a total of 8 parcels that are Google owned, and also to abandon a portion of L Avenue to give back a portion of L Avenue to the adjacent property. This will not result in any additional new lot through the phased tentative map. Again, this is the map that has been submitted by the Google design team to show the before picture of the existing tentative map. There's also another after picture showing the road being straightened and also L Avenue being abandoned. Lastly, one of the many actions City Council is asked to take tonight is to adopt a resolution approve the curb markings. So this includes 136 feet of a white curb along Grundy Avenue for passenger loading and 70 feet of white curb for passenger loading along Cherry Avenue next to 80 feet of yellow curbing that is for loading and unloading. In addition to, please excuse the typo, 60 feet of the red curb on Cherry Avenue for a Samtrans bus stop, which is being relocated within the same block from the Cherry Grundy intersection towards the Cherry Bay Hill intersection to accommodate the bus stop. So the proposed curb markings have gone through TSPC review and received approval in May of 2021. With that, I will turn the table back to City Manager Grogan to talk about the development agreement.
Thank you, City Council and members of the public. I know it's a long presentation. We are just about done. So I will present a few slides on the development agreement, and we do have a signed copy from the Google Corporation within the packet for council tonight of this proposed development agreement. Development agreements, as we know, provide certainty, definition, and commitment as to the proposed development and as to the necessary public improvements required by that development. They also provide clarity on the public benefits to the agency, in this case, the city. In San Bruno, development agreements are very common for large projects such as this that require at least 2 phases. The DA is between the city and the Google Corporation. On the screen, you have various lots, Lot 1N, 1 North, and Lot 1S on the left-hand side of the screen, and then Lots 2, Lots 3, Lot 4, Lot 5 North, Lot 5 South, and Lot 5 East. The lot number is also synonymous with a phase, and so there's 5 phases as a part of the planned YouTube Google campus expansion, and so phases 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and some of them have various parcels connected to them. The purpose, again, of a DA is that it provides those long-term approval rights, and it establishes and sets forth the set of regulations, for example, the Bay Hill specific plan, the general plan, the zoning amendments, and all the various codes. The DA that is before you is a DA that has really 2 terms. A total of 20 years are possible, but the initial term is 15 years. and it provides certainty for the Google Corporation on community benefits, development impact fees, and various other fees. And also includes a prepayment of phases 1 and 2 that we'll talk a little bit about, as well as a possible 5-year extension, so to go from 15 years to 20 years, should at that time phases 1, 2, and 3 be completed. And so there is a measure of completion that is necessary before that additional 5 years can be granted. Again, that initial term is 15 years with the potential for a 5-year expansion. The DA includes a total prepayment for both phases 1 and 2 at the time of the first horizontal permit for phase 1 that will total $56.2 million. That amount is should the City Council approve all the required approvals tonight and the second reading of the ordinances on October 12th. It is anticipated that the city would receive that payment in mid next year, 22. The property development, the DA again equals vested rights per the specific plan, zoning, vesting tentative map, architectural review permits, and various conditions of approval. Important note, local changes to local regulations will not apply to the project for the term of the DA. Again, a DA provides both certainty in terms of regulations and costs, and the project is not subject to a local moratorium or referendum after the initial period of expiration for the DA has expired. Fees, community benefit, you saw those figures. Community-wide development impact fees, it's area development impact fees that YouTube will pay their portion of for the property that they own. It's important to note that as per the DA, it caps impact fees to our current impact fees that we have, but allows adjustment based on an annual inflation index. The developer, as a part of the DA, again, will prepay for phases 1 and 2. Any unused prepaid portions will be credited back to the developer against the next development. That's accommodating for the possibility that the amount of many of the fees are actually based on square feet. And so if the developer prepays for phase 2, and let's say that drops by 5,000 square feet, those prepaid fees will be credited towards phase 3. The developer will receive a credit against community benefits for 75% of the cost to develop the general plan amendment and the specific plan, as well as the EIR. They do not own all the property within the office park, but they will receive a credit for the work that has gone into getting us to where we are. In construction materials, there will be a localization of sales tax for all of the building materials and things that pay sales tax, and a tax localization here to the city of San Bruno. And so we come to the end of the presentation. There are 6 items recommended as a part of the public hearing for item 6A. I will not read through them again. And then 4 items with regard to item 6B. Next steps will be the final approvals of these items in our discussions tonight, followed by a subsequent public hearing to waive the second reading of the ordinances, and that is the zoning ordinance amendment, adding chapters 12.290 to the adding the Bay Hill specific plan zoning district, the zoning map amendment for the Bay Hill specific plan, as well as the development agreement. All require second readings, and subject to approval tonight will be scheduled for October 12th. So that ends our staff presentation. We are available for any questions. It is a decision of the Vice Mayor. We do have the applicant Google/YouTube geared up to give a presentation. We can have that presentation now and then take a pause after that, or based on the council's desire, take a pause now and then have that presentation after a pause.
Council members, anybody have a preference? Councilman Hamilton.
I think it would make sense to, well, first of all, about having a pause. I think I'm fine to keep going. As far as I think it would probably make sense to get the YouTube presentation first before opening up for questions, because we may ask questions that are answered in that second presentation, which is my suggestion.
I agree.
Seeing a nodded head. Nodded head. Excellent. Okay, let's go.
So, Drew Sherwood and Josh Portner from Google YouTube have appeared on the screen, and we'll turn it over to Drew Sherwood.
Great. Thank you, City Manager Grogan. Before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping to help everyone follow along. And there we go. Beautiful. So we're just going to direct people to view my colleague Samantha's screen. So this is great. All right. Well, good evening. My name is Drew Sherwood, and I lead the Global Real Estate and Workplace Services for YouTube. And on behalf of our CEO, Susan Wojcicki, and all of the YouTubers who eagerly look forward to getting back to their offices in San Bruno as soon as it is safe to fully return, thank you for this time this evening to speak with you. You know, in 2006, YouTube was just a small internet video startup. And they left their rented offices located above an Amici's Pizzeria in San Mateo. And they moved to San Bruno in the Bay Hill office complex that you see in this photo on your screens tonight. Now, this decision was not a cavalier choice made late one night watching funny cat videos on the YouTube platform. Moving to San Bruno was a strategic business choice. It was a choice that was only possible because decades ago, San Bruno had the foresight to create a land use plan that led to the development of the Bay Hill Office Center. And this smart planning decision concentrated office-focused development immediately next to the convergence of multiple freeways, major public transportation hubs like BART and Caltrain, and an international airport. And over the years, this area has attracted numerous Fortune 500 companies to San Bruno. This is an ideal location for office development. Now, as we all know, YouTube thrived after moving to San Bruno. And today, we are proud to be the world's leading media company, where we give everyone a voice and show them the world. But we had a real problem. We were proud to call San Bruno home, and we wanted to stay. But we were running out of space to grow. So over 4 years ago, I had the privilege of standing in a room full of San Brunans at the Senior Center and sharing with the community, the City Council, and city staff that YouTube wanted to work together, not just to build new buildings, but we wanted to create an opportunity where San Bruno would thrive as YouTube continued to grow. And that night, together, we all initiated the Bay Hill specific plan. Now, if I could see the attendees on this virtual call, I would probably recognize many familiar faces who have been on this multiple-year journey with us. And to all those members of the community, I want to say thank you. Thank you for the constructive feedback you've given us along the way to improve the project over these past several years. To city staff and all of our consultants, under the leadership and guidance of City Manager Jovan Grogan, thank you for the thousands of hours of work on the Bay Hill specific plan. And to the esteemed members of City Council, thank you for your leadership to ensure that what was important to this community was always in clear focus. Our YouTube development team this evening will share more about the opportunity created by the Bay Hill specific plan. A plan that from YouTube alone will generate $130 million of revenue, including community benefits, development impact fees, affordable housing funding, and the potential to generate thousands of jobs across a wide range of industries. And at a time when so many communities are struggling due to the prolonged pandemic, we could not be more excited about the future for everyone in San Bruno. So now allow me to introduce you to Josh Portner, who leads our YouTube development team.
Thank you, Drew. Honorable City Council members, City of San Bruno staff, and members of the community. would like to take a moment to echo Drew's sentiments. Since that first engagement with the City of San Bruno and members of the public, our development team has been given the opportunity to partner with the San Bruno community. And I too wish to thank all the participants in this process. Being in real estate development for YouTube has many benefits, but the one I personally enjoy the most is our community-based approach for creating place in the built environment. While other real estate developers are sometimes focused on other drivers, our main focus is on the user. At times, that user may be our own employees, but it is also the community of San Bruno and other stakeholders that will engage with our place, whether directly by walking through the Bay Hill complex or using Cherry Plaza, or indirectly through engagements with YouTube employees shopping at Molly Stone's or waiting for a table at a restaurant on San Mateo Avenue. In addition, designing for the user forces us to create a built environment that is mindful of the major issues at hand, including water conservation, climate change, and addressing housing needs, which you will hear more of in our presentation. In realizing the vision for our built environment with the specific plan, we have been collaborating with a world-class design team, including shop architects, who you will hear from tonight, in realizing that design vision. The City Council's potential approval vote tonight would be a huge milestone toward the realization of needed growth here in the city we call home. Staff has already clearly presented the Bay Hill specific plan and associated environmental documents and zoning updates. So our team has put together a presentation focused mainly on YouTube's first phase of development proposed under the new Bay Hill specific plan, aptly named Phase 1. Next slide, please. Our team has thought about how all our sites work together from an architecture, infrastructure, transportation, and building system perspective. And while this evening, we will not take a deep dive into the entire campus, as much of it is purely conceptual, we wanted to take the opportunity to show how Phase 1 connects to the larger planned campus. Next slide. Staff and consultants have spent countless hours putting together a robust and thoughtful process to develop the package you see before you tonight. Along the way, we've gained intimate knowledge and gotten amazing feedback from the community that we have incorporated into the plan. This feedback includes information received from the Planning Commission roughly a month ago when they unanimously recommended the project to City Council. I'd like to take a moment and thank all the commissioners for their thoughtful comments that evening. Next slide. YouTube views public benefits as a synergy of three elements: baseline city development impact fees, community benefits, and YouTube benefits. The monetary portion of these elements equates to $130 million over the lifetime of the project to the city of San Bruno. Next slide. As mentioned by City Manager Jovan Grogan, YouTube has agreed that when we begin constructing the foundations for Phase 1, we will issue to the city both the fees for Phase 1 and a prepayment for Phase 2. You can see those two projects' combined fees here for a total of $56.2 million. Next slide. As we move forward into construction of future phases, YouTube will make payments based on the new square footage in each phase. In an effort to be clear on the future opportunity, we have summed up the monetary benefits on this slide, their sum total being $74 million. Next slide. In addition to the over $25 million in payments to the San Bruno Affordable Housing Fund over the lifetime of the project, YouTube is extremely proud of Google's commitment to the regional Bay Area community to assist in addressing housing needs. We have introduced city staff to the Google Housing Fund Manager and will be looking for opportunities for additional partnerships in San Bruno during our construction of the Bay Hill project. Next slide. As a public school graduate, and a parent of 2 school-aged children currently in the San Mateo County Public School District, public schools are near and dear to me. As part of each construction project, an additional fee is paid to both the San Mateo Union High School District and a larger portion paid to San Bruno Park Elementary District. For the entire specific plan area, YouTube will fund over $1.2 million to San Bruno schools, of which $800,000 goes directly to San Bruno Park Elementary. In addition, I'm extremely excited to announce that just this morning, YouTube paid almost $190,000 to San Bruno schools for our active construction project at 1400 and 1450 Bay Hill, of which $126,000 will go to San Bruno Park Elementary. In addition to the monetary fees going directly to the San Bruno school system, having YouTube in your school's play area brings with it opportunities for partnership. Just a few of those partnerships that we've done over the years can be seen on this slide. In fact, I understand that the $100,000 helped fund 24 San Bruno child care centers. Next slide. In addition to development fees, YouTube has engaged an economist to complete a fiscal analysis of additional benefits that the entire project brings to the community of San Bruno. All these elements will provide direct and indirect benefits. Both the sales tax and annual tax increase will go directly to the city's general fund, and we expect the local expenditures to help the city's continued growth trajectory. Next slide. Finally, the project expects to assist with a myriad of issues that are among the city's top items, including replacement of aging infrastructure at Bay Hill and elimination of climate-changing greenhouse gas emissions. At this point, I would like to introduce a member of my team, Samantha Fries. Samantha is the development executive in charge of our active construction project at 1400 and 1450 Bay Hill, and will also lead the Phase 1 team. Samantha.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you and good evening. As Josh mentioned, I'm Samantha Fries, the Development Executive for 1400 and 1450 Bay Hill Drive. And with your approval tonight, Phase 1 of the Bay Hill Specific Plan. Many of you have seen the construction work going on at 1400 and 1450 Bay Hill, which started last year. We're so grateful that we were able to work with the city to start this exciting project during a difficult and trying time for so many. Over the last year, we've seen as many as 170 people working on site on any given day, and in early 2022, we'll see that number almost double. Through partnership with our contractor, McCarthy Builders, we've been able to maintain a clean and safe job site while off-hauling over 150,000 cubic yards of soil. In fact, in a single day, we had 60 trucks off-haul over 400 loads of soil. And we've been working really hard to ensure that there are minimal impacts to you, our neighbors. Earlier this year, we submitted our $4.5 million public benefit payment to the city, and we're thrilled that it was able to be used for the new rec center. With your approval tonight, we can move forward with Phase 1 of the specific plan with the same high standards that we've implemented for 1400 and 1450 Bay Hill. And now a little about Phase 1. Phase 1 consists of 2 buildings totaling 440,000 square feet. We'll be increasing our tree count on site by over 250. We'll install over 800 kilowatts of solar panels to provide on-site electrical generation and operate as fully electric buildings, eliminating the use of fossil fuels. In addition to the buildings themselves, I'd like to highlight some important features that are part of our Phase 1 project. With Phase 1, we will also be delivering our multimodal transportation hub, which can accommodate up to 4 shuttles at a time and is nestled away from the public roads. We'll deliver over 1 mile of public bikeways per San Bruno's walk and bike plan, provide over 2 acres of accessible public space, and will upgrade over 4 acres of infrastructure and roads. Can't tell you how excited we are at the prospect of starting another project here in San Bruno, and I hope that our presentation tonight makes that clear. I'm now going to turn it over to Chris Sharples with Shop Architects, who will speak more about our design and our commitment to sustainability.
Thanks, Samantha. the framework for how we really began to think about the concept of placemaking is really grounded in Google's principles of place, really focusing on community, innovation, nature, and economics. Next slide, please. So starting with the existing context, which is mainly a car-centric environment, really transferring to a place that can really promote the pedestrian and the bicycling experience. Next slide, please. And then extending that also to the architecture, which currently is quite scaleless, and the hardscape. So really bringing landscape and a sense of human scale to this context. Next slide. So how could YouTube's new building support a great public realm experience? Next slide. So really looking at examples within the area where bicycles and pedestrians and landscape and the scale of the architecture work together to create an incredible public realm experience. Next slide, please. Where the buildings actually create relationships within the landscape, pockets of space, and breaking the scale of these buildings down using fenestration or materials and landscape to really, again, add to a sense of delight. Next slide, please. And so this is a view looking down on phase one, and I want to bring your attention to the way that the building addresses itself to the street. You create these moments of open space along the greenway. Again, pocket parks, places for people to gather and collect as they move along the pedestrian path on Bay Hill and Grundy. You also see the amount of solar panels and skylights that we have on the roof of this building, really helping to create a really strong environmental strategy for these two buildings. Next slide. And so this is sort of a close-up of just a part of the building to sort of describe some of these components. You see the green buffer between the road and the bike path, and then beyond that, the pedestrian. So really using landscape to really create these nice soft buffers between these different programs, and at the same time, drawing the landscape into these pockets where people can actually collect, where there be benches and possibly artwork, and then allowing that vegetation to actually become part of the architecture of the building. So in a way, really trying to create this sort of true green experience as you move up Bay Hill and Grundy. Next slide, please. So this is a view on Bay Hill. You're looking up towards Cherry, and you really start to see how that landscape really plays an impact on really framing that building, but at the same time, seeing the pedestrian way and the bike way along Bay Hill. So really what we believe will be an incredible pedestrian and cycling experience for people moving this way. Next slide. And then this is a view on Grundy. You've just left the intermodal hub, which would be directly to your left, and you're walking up towards the entrances into the two buildings. Again, nature and landscape play a big role here in really framing this view and what we believe will be quite a delightful experience for pedestrians. Next slide, please. And the other important thing about this project, and Samantha brought this up, was the goal here is LEED Platinum, and we're doing that on many different levels. Again, not utilizing fossil fuels, really relying on electricity. As I mentioned, PVs on the roof. The skylights will improve the interior light quality so that we don't have to rely on electric lights all the time. And at the same time, utilizing, battery storage to help allow us to continue to operate these buildings at night. Next slide. The other important factor here is water efficiency. Just with proper fixturing, we can reduce water usage by 17%. And as time goes on with the introduction of the infrastructure for recycling water, we're going to be looking at a overall 52% reduction in terms of water efficiency for these projects. The thing that, though, we believe is going to be really important, and this really ties to the public realm, is the role of biophilia in landscape, and how we not only introduce that on grade, but actually how we bring it up into the building. And as mentioned, you know, bioretention, green roofs, to really reduce the amount of stormwater that would impact, you know, the city sewers. Next slide, please. So one last area, you know, as mentioned earlier, another park that we're developing for this phase is at Cherry Plaza at 1000 Cherry. Next slide. And here, this is a much more scaled space, really a wonderful moment for people to sort of come off of Cherry and take a break and relax in this beautiful pocket park. Next slide is a view underneath the trellis, and really starting to appreciate, you know, what this space can be throughout the year. It's a great place for people to sort of hang out, collect, maybe have lunch. Now I'm going to turn it back over to Josh, and he can talk a little about the transportation system.
Thanks so much, Chris. Really exciting stuff. Next slide, please. To align with YouTube's robust transportation demand management plan, the project team has committed to complete a multimodal center with the phase 1 construction, which you can see its location on the plan here. The center will allow all of YouTube's shuttle drop-offs and pickups to be completed on YouTube property. Next slide. As mentioned earlier, YouTube will employ a robust transportation demand management program using a myriad of elements to continue to shift demand over time from single occupancy vehicles to active modes and shared resources. At this time, this program has allowed us to reduce our needs for single occupancy vehicles to just 43%. Next slide. We have our entire design and development team with us tonight to answer any questions you might have. And I'd like to close by saying thank you for your time and your participation this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. City Manager, the preference going forward?
So that concludes both the staff presentation and the applicant presentation. I think given that it's 9 o'clock, it may be best to take a short break, come back with any questions from the council, and then go into public comment before discussion and deliberation, followed by action.
Excellent. Let's take a 5-minute break and be back here at 9:05. Okay. Let's wait another minute. I think got a couple more people need to get into the room or back to their screen. Okay, got all our council members back. Let's resume the meeting. And council, it's our time to ask questions. And who would like to go first? Seeing no hands.
Through the chair.
I'm sorry, I don't have the hosting ability right now, so
gotcha.
Councilman Salazar.
All right, so just wanted to start by saying that this is a very exciting project, and as Drew mentioned earlier, it's been many years in the making, and there's been a lot of public input, a lot of conversations around this, and so it is nice to finally be at this point. We were reminded by the city attorney earlier that because of the nature of the actions we're taking today, that we do have to disclose prior conversations around this. And so I wanted to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about my interactions related to this project and working with YouTube and Google over the many years. And we have had very many conversations over that time period, some related to this project and some not. Most of the conversations that I recall having with the team were very early on in the process, so it was still a concept at the time. And one of the things that we have to disclose is the nature of those conversations and whether they differed in any way from the public information that was presented here tonight. And I just wanted to confirm that during any of the conversations that I've had, did we discuss anything other than the information that's been disclosed publicly, information that was obtained from public input, and most of it really had to do with procedural things and sort of monitoring how things were moving through the process and making sure that we were doing things according to the city's process. And so that's my disclosure in terms of my contact with the team.
Thank you. Anyone else want to discuss or disclose the ex parte communications? Go ahead and start. My screen doesn't have that. I apologize.
Okay, so through the chair, as everyone knows, I've only been on the council since last December. So this cake was mostly baked by the time I joined. I was in the audience at that original meeting way back in 2017 when we started when this process was officially started. So as a private citizen. But I have had a few meetings during the course of since I've been on council, and at no point was I presented with or did we discuss any information that wasn't later confirmed in a staff report. So there was no and the conversations never strayed from the topics that were covered tonight and and in other public meetings. I would just I do want to thank the city team and the YouTube team and all the consultants involved in the massive amount of effort that it took to get to this point. This is I echo my colleague Councilman Salazar's comment that this is a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Hamilton. I don't see Councilwoman Mason yet returned. I'll go ahead and go next. Yes, I'd like to acknowledge the effort from everybody, from staff, from the YouTube staff, the consultants, and the public in participating in this long, deliberate procedure of getting us here tonight. It's a really big deal. As noted in the staff report, we've had a number of meetings with YouTube in public, and we've also, as a council member, had meetings with YouTube and staff to discuss various parts of the project as we were going through the process and phasing of getting to where we're at. I also been on 2 recent tours of YouTube, once with our fire chief, DeLay, and kind of going over what the new development there at the end of Bay Hill. And I also went on a tour with the YouTube staff a couple weeks ago. Again, like my colleagues, my decision is based on the facts here in the public record. There were a few emails going back and forth between YouTube personnel in regards to setting up meetings, but and availability to go to meetings, but everything that I'm basing my decision on is here where it should be in the public. So I'm looking at the screen and seeing Councilwoman Mason hasn't yet returned. Can somebody check on that? Staff? Oh, there she is. Sorry.
I'm here. Yeah, I would just echo the disclosures around meeting with YouTube. I too had a walkthrough with Chief DeLay, and it's probably one of the cleanest construction sites I've ever seen. And then more recently, YouTube invited each of the council members for a walkthrough with some of the individuals that you saw tonight. So it was an opportunity for just, I guess, some questions that we may have had. Most of the questions were already part of the Planning Commission meeting, which I took the time to review and watch this weekend. And they were, all the decisions that I'm making tonight are based on the staff report and the presentation we just heard. But I want to thank everybody, including our staff, for their professionalism through this process and just being available for any questions that arose. Thank you.
Excellent. So, City Manager Grogan, I think.
Through the chair, I'm sorry. I have one additional comment. I just want to make a quick before we go to public comment.
Sure,
if that's okay.
Of course.
I just want to make a comment regarding housing. As everyone knows, we're facing a housing crisis across America and in California and here in the Bay Area, and San Bruno we committed to do our part to address it. And while it's true that there is a housing overlay, there are options for 500 some units as part of this plan. I want to make it clear to folks who may be watching that this is an office park, and our commitment as a council and as a city to affordable housing and housing in general is not changed by this project. And in fact, a project like this provides us with an economic engine. It provides us with both one-time and ongoing revenue so that we're able to provide housing elsewhere in the city. And I just want to make sure that people understand that by supporting this project of replacing an old office park with a much better one does not in any way dilute our commitment to providing housing and meeting our RENA numbers and helping to address this crisis. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Hamilton. Would someone want to start with questions?
Through the chair?
Sure.
I don't have any questions specifically, but are we going now to public comment, or are we still on council questions?
Based on some information that the city manager gave me, we can go to public comment if we'd like to now. It was set up to go to council questions, but City Manager Grogan, any issue with going to the public?
No issue with going to public comment now, Vice Mayor. We typically allow for council members to ask questions on the presentation. If there are no immediate questions, or if the council would like to hold, then we go to public comment, and we can do that right now. It's also important to close the public hearing. City Attorney, do you want to address that?
Sure, Mr. Vice Mayor.
You're muted, City Hall.
I heard the first part of it.
All right. The appropriate thing now would be to open the public hearings on both items 6A and 6B, receive any and all public comment that might be offered, and then close both public hearings with one motion, and then bring it back to the council for either questions and or deliberation. And just as a reminder, each of the actions will require a separate roll call vote, and I know that that we can assist you as well as the clerk, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Yes, definitely we'll need that assistance. There are 10 different items here and many wave reading. So let's open up to public comment, or open the public hearing.
Through the chair, one more procedural question. Since we have a lot of attendees and I'm starting to see a lot of hands come up, I'm wondering if we could just pause to get an estimate and ask everyone who's going to speak to raise their hand now so that we can get a count. And that way we can determine if we need to adjust the amount of time per speaker so that we don't end up running too late. And it looks like the number of hands has been growing steadily since I started speaking.
Excellent. Let's see, City Clerk, can you give me a hand with that? I'm looking at oh, here you go. Here's the list.
When is this happening? We currently have 14 hands raised, but yes, it is climbing. 14.
At 3 minutes each would be putting us at 14, 3 is 52. 42.
Yeah.
So typically, if people are repeating the same comment, it would probably be easier to say, yeah, I also in favor of the project, or if there's anything new to add, but.
Okay.
I think we're okay with 14 times 3.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable, and I think maybe not everyone will use their full 3 minutes. I was concerned that with 56 participants, if everybody wanted 3 minutes, then that could get a little crazy. But I think the 14 is probably manageable, so no concern.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, let's start.
First is James Rua Gomez.
Good evening, Honorable Vice Mayor Medina, Honorable City Council members, hardworking city staff, presenters. You guys did an excellent job, and members of the public. My name is James Gomez. I live at 1861 Donner Avenue, and I'm speaking on behalf of the San Mateo Building and Construction Trade Council. The San Mateo Building and Construction Trade Council is comprised of 25 affiliates and 16,000 highly skilled men and women in San Mateo County, many of them which live here in San Bruno. Some of them are probably on the call today. If they raised their hands and then lowered their hands, the city council and staff would get a number of how many folks are here that I'm speaking on behalf of. Well, we are excited about this project, and we've been involved in this project back to 2017 to those community members, and we are proud to announce that we are in full support of this project and in full partnership with YouTube, Google. We have a community workforce agreement, which is also known as a project labor agreement for their project that is currently being worked on here in San Bruno. And we have a commitment to negotiate another community workforce agreement for this project. Community workforce agreements follow the Work and Families platform, and they are community benefits by hiring local contractors, local workers, local apprentices, returning veterans from our military. And we are proud that these thousands of jobs that they are going to create will follow the Work and Family platform of earn a decent wage. And even though we earn a decent wage, half our earnings are spent on rents and mortgages. Healthcare, not only for the worker, but for their family. And that healthcare includes optical and dental. Retirement. Our retirement dollars go into the stock market as safe investments, back into municipal bonds so we could rebuild our infrastructures. And education. We fund one of the largest privately funded education systems in these United States to ensure that these buildings will be built right the first time, on time, and on budget. I cannot say enough about Google and YouTube for committing to this partnership. Many private developers will not make this commitment to the Work and Families or the Work and Family platform. And we are excited that Google and YouTube will make that commitment to us. So in closing, let me just say that we're in full support of the Planning Commission's recommendation to approve. And I'm proud to be a resident of the city with a heart. And now let's show our community that we're also smart by approving this project and receiving those funds and building dilapidated buildings into 21st century buildings that are energy efficient. Thank you and have a great evening.
Thank you. Next is David De La Torre. One moment, I'm trying to get Mr. De La Torre unmuted.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, whenever you're ready.
Good evening, council members. My name is David De La Torre. I work for the Laborers Union, Local 261. We're a building construction trades affiliate. I represent over 5,000 members throughout the peninsula and north Marin counties. My office sent a letter of support for this project. Projects like this help us help our members piecemeal their retirement, their health care, and provide them with provide them with the hours to support their family. But aside from that, I'm calling in as a resident. I am a lifetime resident. I live on the 900 block of Hensley. I've seen that the Bay Hill Park office area dormant for some time. I know some of the buildings were partially vacant since Facebook has taken over. YouTube has taken over the area. It has definitely flourished. It has improved. And I call in again just to voice my opinion of the support of this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Rich Koenig.
Hello, are you there?
Yes, whenever you're ready.
All right, thank you very much. Good evening, Vice Mayor Medina and council members. First of all, thank you for your service to San Bruno. My name is Rich Koenig. I am a current and lifetime resident of San Bruno. I'm also the business representative for the Sheet Metal Workers Union, Local 104. We support this proposal tonight. We believe this project will benefit the local community and the city of San Bruno. We believe this project will stimulate the local economy by providing good middle-class union construction jobs with living wages, health, and retirement benefits for our members that live in San Mateo County and also our members that live in San Bruno, because we dispatch our members from our South San Francisco is our dispatch point for our members. And this project will ensure sustainable career pathways, as James mentioned, into union construction apprenticeships and provide training programs for local youth. For example, I graduated from Cappuccino High School, and I've had a great career, about 35 years with the Sheet Metal Worker Union. And I wanted to add that our programs, our apprenticeship programs, offer a direct entry, a certain percentage for United States military veterans, and also for graduates of the Trades Introductory Program, which is held up at College of San Mateo. And so I'd like to lastly add that we, the Local 104 and the Building Trades, has a long established, successful relationship with Google, YouTube. We're currently working on their projects, and a couple projects in Bay Hill at this time. So we've been a great partner with YouTube, Google, and they've committed to this partnership. So for these reasons, we urge this council to join the San Mateo County Building Trades and approve this plan tonight as proposed. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Next is Paul Wipensky.
Good evening. I don't like the housing part of this. If you go for the maximum units, you're going to have over 1,000 units within a quarter mile of each other between the Bay Hill project and the Mills Park project, and that's just going to be way too much congestion. So I think you really need to think long and hard about approving that many housing units in this small amount of area. The second thing is, if you're going to reduce traffic by 43%, or not traffic, but people driving by 43%, why don't you just reduce the parking spaces by that amount and force people to take public transportation? The second thing is, if you do build the housing, the briefing was, there was mention that penalties would apply for people that were not meeting that 43% limit. So who pays that penalty? Is the people that are going to live in those housing units? Are they going to have to pay a penalty for not or for driving their cars? And then my last question is, will there be a bridge over Cherry so we don't have to stop every time somebody wants to cross the street? Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Melinda Evers. One moment, I'm trying to get Melinda unmuted. Melinda, can you hear us?
Yes, but I did not raise my hand. Apologies.
Okay. Next is Saida Stroud. Saida, can you hear us?
I can.
Hello, whenever you're ready.
Sure. Thank you so much for allowing a brief moment for this comment. Thank you, City Council. My name is Saida Stroud. I'm the outgoing director for the Bay Area Entrepreneur Center of Skyline College, located right on San Mateo Avenue. And I wanted to extend our support of the resolution for the Bay Hill specific plan and expansion project, and specifically highlight the partnership and support that Skyline College has received from YouTube, Google over the years. Over the years, YouTube and Google has supported Skyline College efforts and initiatives, and has also played a valuable role in supporting the efforts of the Bay Area Entrepreneur Center as we work to rebuild our local business community during this pandemic. So we support this plan and wish them good luck and hope you all are well and healthy. Thank you.
Next is Brian Vanderloot.
Good evening.
Brian, can you hear us?
Yep, you got me?
Yes, whenever you're ready.
Hey, thanks.
Good evening, Vice Mayor Medina, City Council members. Tonight I'm representing the San Bruno Education Foundation. We submitted a pre-read simple letter, and so for time I won't restate the content of that letter, but I did want to expand on an idea that was raised in the YouTube presentation. The word partner or partnership were used several times, and that really resonated with me. Most of you know me well enough to know how much I value partnerships and kind of what a partnership brings, where each entity contributes something that makes us all stronger. And while we certainly appreciate the very generous financial support from YouTube to our schools over the years, the thing that stands out for me in our partnership kind of goes beyond simply cutting a check. It's the occasions where they've, for example, opened their doors and invited us onto their campus for a fundraiser, when they've contributed executive time and energy to a multi-month planning process where our schools developed a portrait of the graduate. And maybe most notably, more recently, when our schools went to remote learning in the initial stages of the COVID pandemic, and we reached out to our community partners, recognizing that some of our students didn't have adequate computers or internet service at home, and recognized that they would be left behind. YouTube and Google were certainly one of our first phone calls, and their response was essentially, how can we help? And jumped in with both feet. And I cite those instances as, for me, being indicative of the kind of partners they've been to our schools and our community, far beyond, simply cutting checks. And so I'm excited tonight as we look together about how we can ensure that that kind of strong partnership can continue well into the future. And thank you for your time.
Next is Alex Melendres.
Hello, City Council, City staff. Alex Melendres. I don't really have prepared comments here. I'm assuming, as somebody said earlier, that you guys have had a chance to read my email. I have left some things out of my comments that I sent in my email regarding housing. In contrast to one of the other comments earlier, I actually don't think there's enough housing. That being said, I would be remiss if I did not mention the many other community benefits that I think that this project does provide. I think that's something I really forgot to highlight. This, first phase of this proposal really does have a lot of great benefit for our community. YouTube has been a proven partner when it comes to our various, education endeavors, either the school foundation or Skyline. It has the support of two childcare organizations that I really respect in San Mateo County. It's Build Up San Mateo County and 4Cs. Additionally, the existing housing overlays. Oh, and obviously the tremendous union support, which you do not always see in a lot of other developments. What was I saying? Oh, yes, with the existing overlays as well. 573, while, as I mentioned, I personally do not think is enough, is not something to laugh at, and it is adding housing into an existing office area that does not currently zone for it. I think that is still better than nothing. So I do want to highlight that. I want to appreciate Councilmember Hamilton's comments and the commitment of the City of San Bruno to try to develop more housing in San Bruno to create a more inclusive and diverse San Bruno. And overall, if you take the housing part out of it, I am 90% happy with the proposal that's going on here. It's going to be a great economic development for our city. And I think I want to really appreciate the work that the city has done on this proposal. So thank you.
Next is Dean Moser.
Good evening, council members and staff of San Bruno and all the consultants that have worked on this project. Little did I know in August of 2016 that I was going to have YouTube's as a neighbor and venture on a 5-year project in seeing what was going to happen at Bay Hill. We're totally excited about Bay Hill as the property owners at 851 Traeger, and we couldn't be more excited. I think that it's obviously going to make our property more valuable, and we're looking forward to trying to do some development on our property. Hopefully it doesn't take 5 years to get approvals, but nevertheless, I think everybody has done a great job on this project, and we're happy to have YouTubes be our neighbor, and we're also very pleased to be part of the San Bruno community. So thank you very much for your time and all 5 years of effort. We appreciate it, and I think you've done a phenomenal job. Thank you.
Next is Linda Larson.
Yes, good evening, Honorable Vice Mayor and City Council members. My name is Linda Larson. My address is 1477 Floribunda in Burlingame, but the majority of my life is spent at the shops at Tanforan, where I have been the general manager for the past 10 years. I'm here tonight to speak in favor of the Bay Hill Specific Plan and to support YouTube's Phase 1, as they have been an amazing corporate partner for the city for San Bruno for many years. Since 2017, YouTube and Google.org has contributed $100,000 per year to the Community Grants Fund. After the 2018 shooting at YouTube, the Google Foundation and YouTube employees donated over $300,000 to San Bruno First Responder Effectiveness Strategic Initiative. These donations funded a mobile command vehicle to assist the San Bruno police and fire departments during critical incident or natural disasters. They have been an annual sponsor of the Skyline President's Breakfast. In response to the pandemic impacts, they donated funding, which we've heard, to San Bruno Park Elementary School District to cover costs associated with distance learning, and they donated $100,000 to the San Mateo County Child Care Fund, providing emergency grants to child care operators. Additionally, as a board member of the San Bruno Chamber of Commerce, I can attest to the many contributions and resources YouTube has provided to our business community, and wish to thank them for hosting many events at their facility and for appointing Rebecca Prozan, their West Coast Government Affairs and Public Policy Head, as a respected, active, and involved member of the board. I know you are all very well versed on the benefits of this project, specifically the economic benefits, so I won't list them again. I simply wish to highlight and applaud the extraordinary partnership YouTube has with the city and to remind us all how fortunate we are to have their world-class corporate campus in San Bruno. I believe the Bay Hill Specific Plan is an absolutely pivotal project for San Bruno's future, and I wholeheartedly support it as well as YouTube's Phase 1. Thank you for my 3 minutes, and good night.
Next speaker is Eddie.
Good evening, council members, and good evening, city staff. My name is Eddie Young, and I am the president and CEO of the Police Credit Union of California. In short, I will be a neighbor. Actually, I am a neighbor of YouTube, Google right now, and I guess I will be in ground zero when Phase 1 really kicks in for them. I'm actually here speaking in support of the Bay Hill Specific Project. I think that YouTube and the Police Credit Union of California really have shared a great deal of insight about the potential as well as the benefit of being located in San Bruno. It is one in which a city that affords us, our staff, a greater degree of flexibility, greater degree of comfort as to traveling to and from work. And I think that this project will bring great benefit to all within this San Bruno area. So again, I want to voice my support, wholehearted support for this project. Thank you.
Next is Juan Espinoza Carpenters.
Good evening, Vice Mayor, City Council members, members of staff. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Juan Espinoza. I'm a field representative for Northern California Regional Council Carpenters. And I work out of Local 217, which is in Foster City. We dispatch members throughout San Mateo County. In our local, we have about 1,600 members. Throughout Northern California, we have over 38,000 members. And there's so many good things about this project. I'm very proud. Google and YouTube have been great partners with the carpenters. I'm calling to urge you guys to approve the Planning Commission recommendation. This is a project that is being well-rounded, well-thought, and all the benefits for the community is just amazing. So please approve this development, and thank you for your time. Have a great night.
Next is Heather Rothenberg.
Good evening, City Council members and City staff members. My name is Heather Rothenberg, and I'm an employee at YouTube. What makes me a bit unique is that I was hired and began working for YouTube as the head of our Global Claims Council during the pandemic. And it almost feels like I'm part of an employment equivalent of a new generation, because this experience of working for a company but not getting to actually be in our offices yet is pretty unprecedented until the COVID pandemic. However, that did not stop me right after being hired from jumping in the car with my wife and dog and driving around Bay Hill and the rest of San Bruno to explore. One of the things I was super excited about was the proximity to BART, so I can ride the train to San Bruno and then my scooter from the BART to the office, one of my favorite ways to commute. San Francisco is home, but I do love to eat, and I can't wait to work my way through the restaurants across San Bruno when we do get to go back to the office. The combo Molly Stones and Ace Hardware is brilliant, and what a great downtown. Thank you for the years of hard work that led to this meeting and the important decisions that you will make. On behalf of YouTubers like me who are working remotely right now, I can assure you that we cannot wait to be in San Bruno. Thank you so much for your public service and the chance to speak tonight.
Next is Doug.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes, whenever you're ready.
Great, thank you. Council members, city clerk, vice mayor, city managers, attorneys, consultants, planners, and all participants. Good evening. My name is Doug Hood, and I'm an owner and manager of 801-851 Traeger in the Bay Hill Specific Plan. I'd like to thank everyone tonight that had a hand in this process, and our ownership has been involved with the process since the beginning. At this time, I would like to congratulate YouTube and congratulate the City of San Bruno. The Bay Hill Specific Plan will be a fantastic project and will be a milestone for the City of San Bruno and YouTube for years to come. We will continue to support and with YouTube in their process to complete the Bay Hill Specific Plan. And all along this process, YouTube's been a great neighbor for us. However, and hopefully, the process will be a bit quicker in the near future. And I know YouTube and the ownership of 801 and 851 Traeger would appreciate the acceleration of the campus expansion. So again, I would like to thank everyone that contributed in this process, and we look forward to the future of the Bay Hill Specific Plan. Thank you.
The next speaker is Andrew Cussin. One moment, I'm trying to get Andrew unmuted.
All right. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, whenever
Honorable Vice Mayor, council members, and city staff. My name is Andrew Cusson, and I am a Senior Manager of Investments with Regency Centers. Regency is the owner and operator of the Bay Hill Shopping Center, which is included in the Bay Hill Specific Plan. I am speaking tonight to encourage you to adopt the various resolutions and ordinances in front of you in order to implement the Bay Hill Specific Plan. This plan has been in development for years, and I want to highlight the efforts and commend city staff on getting it to its current form. This plan, when finally implemented, will be a boon for the neighborhood and the city of San Bruno. Regency looks forward to maintaining a first-class retail shopping center for the residents of San Bruno, our business owners, and the future Googlers and YouTubers on their campus next door. Additionally, we are excited to explore residential development options at our shopping center to help alleviate an unprecedented housing crisis in the Bay Area. Again, I encourage you to vote to adopt the specific plan, certify the EIR, and allow Google to move forward with its Phase 1 plans. Thank you all.
That was the last speaker.
The last speaker. Excellent.
Through the chair, if you're ready to entertain a motion, I will move that we close the public hearing.
I'll second. Excellent.
And I'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Hamilton?
Aye.
Councilmember Mason?
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar?
Aye.
And Vice Mayor Marty Medina?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Excellent. So now we're ready for council comments. I did want to address some of the questions from Mr. Wipensky. The housing plan is 573 units. The penalty for the driving is not to the homeowners, it's to the business, and it's called a mitigation fee. And there are no plans in the specific plan to build a bridge for vehicle traffic over Cherry.
Through the chair, I think the question was about a bridge for pedestrians over Cherry, and I don't believe that's in the plan as well.
That's absolutely correct. No bridge over Cherry. Who would like to start with questions?
Through the chair, I don't have any questions, and, a lot of people have commented how this has been a long process, and we've been discussing a lot of the details over a long period of time, and I think the information has always been very, it's come very freely, and we've done a really good job of putting it out on the internet and getting people involved, and so I really don't have any specific questions on what's being proposed. I did want to make one comment just as a clarification, because some of the comments, and I think people have a good idea of what we're actually doing tonight, but I did want to just sort of clarify that, our first action will be to approve the EIR and the specific plan. So it's basically a roadmap for what will become Bay Hill. And the second action is related specifically to Phase 1, which are the buildings that were highlighted in the presentation. So there will be a lot more construction to come. There's no housing involved in this first phase. So there will be more to come, but tonight's action specifically is focused on Phase 1 and of course approval of the overall plan.
Thank you, Councilman Salazar. Anyone else? I'll go ahead and ask a couple questions then. In the WSA, the water capacity is sufficient. However, how close are we to at one point, will there not be enough water? It's something just that as we're expecting all this development, how does approving this impact future development?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We will have our consultant, Amy Kwong, who is a panelist, address that question. So Melissa, I think Amy's in the room, and Amy, if you will unmute yourself and address the question.
Hi, yes. So Amy Kwong from West Yost. We helped the city prepare their water supply assessment and the water supply assessment addendum. And we're also working with city staff on the urban water management plan that will be coming on October 26th. So basically, in terms of planning of water supplies, we work on first the demand projections. So the city also is in a parallel effort working on their water master plan, where we, looked at the current demands, what is proposed to be built in the next, the urban plan looks at 2045, and basically that's build out for the city, and looks at everything that would build out in the city and what the demands are. Then we compare it to the available water supplies. So for the most recent urban plan, the biggest change has been the supply reliability from SFPUC. It has dropped significantly because of the Bay Delta Plan amendment, which is requiring flow objectives in the San Joaquin River, additional flow in the rivers for environmental. So the water supply for SFPUC wholesale customers have decreased. However, the city does have groundwater supply. So that really is an important piece of your supply portfolio. So that helps you during the drought and dry periods where you don't have to rely on SFPUC supply. And you can use groundwater to supplement it. So we looked at demands compared to supplies in normal, dry, and multiple dry years in the urban plan. And basically what the conclusion we came to is that based on the supply available, there'll need to be a 24% reduction in demands, in total demands that would be needed to meet supplies in those really dry years. And we assume that the Bay Delta Plan will be in effect. However, the Bay Delta Plan, there's a lot of uncertainties right now. Lots of lawsuits, as well as a lot of the agencies are working on a voluntary agreement so that the reductions won't be as bad. So there's a lot of uncertainties there, but we're planning for the worst, just so you know what, may happen. And what may happen is that in normal years, you have enough supply. In those dry years, single dry years and multiple dry years, there will be up to a 24% reduction projected. So that is when the water shortage contingency plan that will come up in October 26th meeting, that will be important to have because it has steps in there to indicate what the city needs to do to hit the percentage reductions. So stage 1, 10%, stage 2, 20, and stage 3 would be a 30% reduction. And the mitigation measures that need to be in place for that. Sorry, I gave you a lot of background, but no, hopefully that helps you understand what that 24% means.
We have enough water, and we're going to get an update in October on our
yes.
Plan.
So
okay.
In the last drought, the city did show that it could reduce over 20%. They had conservation, and that was able to reduce their demands. So, with assuming that the customers can do the same kind of conservation, if supplies get reduced again, that there will be enough supplies for the project.
Excellent, thank you. Any other questions from council, or I can continue? I don't see any hands. I find the plans amazing with the number of trees. And likely, the question, besides the appreciation for trees, street sweeping. Will street sweeping be necessary? And if so, who pays for that?
Councilmember Medina, is your question during construction or normal course of street sweeping during the normal course of business as the city does on a weekly basis?
Typically, my question is for after the construction is complete. I've seen the street sweepers there at YouTube currently, but yeah, it was primarily the concern is who's going to pay for that. I know that we have efforts underway of looking at our street sweeping and with our limited budgets, and I just also wanted to confirm that the maintenance of all the beautiful green walkways, that's being maintained by the developer, or is there going to be like a property owner association or the city?
So, Councilmember Medina, through the phase one, YouTube is granting to the city ownership of a portion of Grundy. Currently, we do the street sweeping as a part of our normal operations in the Bay Hill Office Park, where we have some roads we own in fee, other roads we have an easement over. We maintain both street sweeping and roadway maintenance under the plan. That will continue. All of the landscaping improvements on private space will be the responsibility of that property owner. The landscaping within the public right-of-way will be the responsibility of the city.
Got it. Another question I have is for the area where the roads leading to the transit center, where all the shuttle buses are going to be circulating, is it planned to have stronger road sections installed to handle that additional load?
So the multimodal station is on private property, and so that is Google/YouTube private property where the multimodal station will be. I think your question is along the essentially collector roads, Bay Hill and Grundy, that will be the entrance and the exit for that private multimodal station. Will the roads be designed and constructed in a way to carry the traffic? I believe we do have our Public Works Director, Haywan Ritchie, as a panelist. Haywan, will you address that question? Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Vice Mayor, council members. I wanted to address the question about the landscaping that is being maintained by YouTube, and I apologize. While I was looking that up, I missed the question.
Well, first, thank you for clarifying that the median landscaping will be maintained by YouTube. The question was with regard to Bay Hill and Grundy, will the roads be constructed in a manner that will be sufficient for the shuttle bus traffic that will be entering and exiting the Google/YouTube multimodal station?
Yes, so when it is being designed, we have to look at the types of loads that the roadway will be expected to handle, and that will be factored in the pavement design.
Excellent. Those are my questions. Any other council member have any? Okay.
Vice Mayor Medina, I don't know if you see my hand.
I cannot, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Just a question, comment. Thank you for the thorough presentation. I think it answered a number of questions along with the staff report. I think just for members of the public, one of the areas that we've heard about is infrastructure. And we saw it in the presentation today. And I just want to reiterate, and I'm not sure who would answer this question, but that part of this entire development is going to provide new infrastructure for these areas that are going to be developed, in addition to any impact fees that would go as a regular course of business for the city of San Bruno at this point.
Interim Director Richie, can you take the first part of that? And then we may provide additional information here at City Hall.
Yes, so certainly where Grundy is being realigned, all of the new infrastructure will be provided by YouTube. That includes, well, aside from the private utilities, of course, PG&E would be reinstalling those, but sewer, water, storm, sidewalks, where that is being aligned, YouTube will be funding that infrastructure, as well as we've run various models, and where other utilities need to be upsized, they will also be responsible for making sure that they have capacity for their site, and as well as other infrastructure improvements such as transportation. They will be paying their fair share for certain projects in and around Bay Hill to help support the specific plan.
Great.
Recreation. Yeah, and just to piggyback off of that, we'll share one slide here that is in regard to citywide infrastructure. And so with regard to the development agreement, it's important to note that there are area development impact fees where YouTube will pay a portion of projects that are specific to the planning area, the Bay Hill specific plan. Part of Councilmember Mason's question or comment was really wanting to clarify and point out that there is also citywide development impact fees, and in the phase one, those in the prepayment for phase 1 and 2, that's a total of $14.8 million. That is citywide impact fees to go towards various community facilities, parks, recreation, roads, and things of that nature, as well as $10.3 million for affordable housing. We currently have just over $3.5 million in our Affordable Housing Trust Fund. When this prepayment is made, again, expected middle of 2022, that will add another $10.3 million to that fund and triple the amount of money, more than triple the amount of money that's in that fund. And additional community benefit payment that can go to various infrastructure and services in the community of $26 million. And so that is just the first prepayment. All other phases in the DA, $73 million for a total of $130 million of community benefits. So yes, absolutely, there is money for infrastructure outside of the planning area, affordable housing, as well as additional community benefit money that the city council will allocate.
Right, but just so that it doesn't appear to be a big windfall, we're not getting all of that at one time, correct? And the city has a number of its own obligations that it needs to invest in as well. The other, I just wanted to thank everybody who submitted public comment. We received a number of letters from our partners in the building trades, including not just one from the building trades, but also from the members of Operating Engineers Local Union 3, IBW Local Union 617, Plumbers Local 467, and our Apprenticeship Training Center, Sheet Metal Workers Union Local 104, Carpet Linoleum Soft Tile Workers Local Union 12. And in the letter that we received, which was substantially similar, if not identical, I just want to highlight that the YouTube project for their two buildings continued through the pandemic, and that they moved forward using 100% of union trades, which is quite remarkable when so many businesses were pulling back. I did look further into the child care assistance that was provided through COVID, and 24 of those grants went to child care centers in San Bruno. And so while we're looking at, this is a long-term vision for San Bruno and the home of YouTube, I do hope that some of the other partner corporations that are coming to San Bruno that are interested in San Bruno are taking note, because YouTube has really made an effort to establish not just relationships, but to learn what San Bruno's needs are, so that as they're coming in and growing in San Bruno, they're also assisting, as we all heard tonight, in various areas within San Bruno. So my questions were answered. I'm excited to approve this item tonight and to move onward. It's exciting. Thank you.
Excellent. No more questions. We have a lot of different things ahead of us here.
All right, through the chair, if you will allow me, I would like to make a motion to introduce the first resolution, which is approving the water supply assessment report.
Looking for a second.
I'll second.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Aye.
Councilmember Mason?
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Medina?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, we'll take turns. I'd like to make a motion to adopt a resolution certifying the EIR and adopting CEQA findings, facts, statements of overriding considerations, and a mitigation monitoring and reporting program for the Bay Hill specific plan and Google Phase 1 project.
I'll second.
Excellent.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Aye.
Councilmember Mason?
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Medina?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, so I'll motion to adopt resolution amending the San Bruno general plan to ensure consistency with the Bay Hill specific plan.
And I'll second.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Aye.
Councilmember Mason?
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Medina?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. And I will make a motion to adopt a resolution adopting the Bay Hill specific plan for the Bay Hill area of the city.
And I will second.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Aye.
Councilmember Mason?
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Medina?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I don't know how I got all the long ones. I'd like to make a motion to waive the first reading and introduce ordinance adding chapter 12.290 Bay Hill specific plan districts to the City of San Bruno Municipal Code, establishing regulations for parcels within the Bay Hill specific plan.
I'll second.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Aye.
Councilmember Mason?
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Medina?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, and I'll motion to waive the first reading and introduce ordinance amending the City of San Bruno zoning map for the Bay Hill specific plan area.
I'll second.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Aye.
Councilmember Mason?
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Medina?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right. And I guess we'll keep going through item B, and I will make a motion to adopt a resolution approving the phased vesting tentative tract subdivision map with lot line adjustments, realigning of Grundy Lane involving vacation of current public roadway utility easements and dedication of new roadway right-of-way, and fee and granting of new utility easements, and a vacation of portions of Elm Avenue as shown on the map for Google LLC's property in the Bay Hill area of the city.
I'll second that.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Aye.
Councilmember Mason?
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Medina?
Aye.
Motion carries.
You're up, Tom. Keep going.
Sorry. I'd like to make a motion to waive the first reading and introduce an ordinance approving a development agreement between the City of San Bruno and Google LLC, a California limited liability company, of the Google project located in the Bay Hill Office Park.
I'll second.
Councilmember Hamilton,
Aye.
Councilmember Mason,
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Medina.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. I'll motion to adopt resolution approving an architectural review permit for phase 1 of Google LLC's development plans in the Bay Hill area of the city.
I'll second.
Councilmember Hamilton,
Aye.
Councilmember Mason,
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Medina.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, and I believe we're down to the last one, adopt a resolution authorizing various, I'll make a motion to adopt a resolution authorizing various curb marking changes along frontages of 900 Cherry Avenue and 1000 Cherry Avenue in the Bay Hill area of the city of phase 1 of Google LLC's development plans.
I will second.
Councilmember Hamilton,
Aye.
Councilmember Mason,
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Medina.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Wow.
Try reading all of those at once.
Why you're the, that's why you're the president? Okay. What a wonderful night. We have a growing partnership with YouTube, and I look forward to the next groundbreaking there.
Okay. Good job, all.
There he is. Welcome back,
I am
Mr.
back,
Mayor.
and we'll bring it to the end of item number 7, comments from council members. If there are comments, if you could raise your virtual hand at this time, go around once and get us out before hopefully 10:30. Seeing no hands up at this time.
Real quick, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, I just wanted a quick little report out from the downtown ad hoc committee. We were able to send the modified the scope of work and reached out to the Chamber of Commerce and the BAEC. So just wanted to follow up with what we said we're going to do.
Thank you, Councilmember Mason.
Yeah, I just really wanted to, again, thank staff for all the work that went into tonight's presentation. I know at one point a couple of years ago, the planning team was incredibly short-staffed. And what's really been done to make tonight happen, I know has been a significant amount of work hours, and because they're salaried, they're probably not, there's no overtime pay. But the benefit to this community won't be forgotten. And so I just wanted to really thank staff for all their hard work around this particular project. And then I wanted to also highlight that I did visit that Tanforan Art Zone and reiterate really what a kind of breath of fresh air it is to see something different in a mall. And if you haven't had a chance to take a look at it, Ruth Waters will actually just stand at the window of the location, and you can see her carving her beautiful wood artwork, and it's quite nice. It's not like anything I had seen before. So I really encourage people to go and kind of encourage the growth of that art zone within Tanforan. So thanks so much.
Okay, any other hands from other colleagues?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I apologize. Just wanted to encourage parents and the public to join the PTA or PTO of the school that's nearby. There's a big effort to generate support, and also wanted to share the call for noontime supervision at Parkside and other elementary schools. They could really use some help. So if people are interested, they can contact the district office and work on helping out supervise noontime at our schools. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, last call. Any other council members? Okay, well, since you guys haven't seen me in a little while, I have a few things to report. A couple things. One, I wanted to mention this, and I hadn't posted it, but after I came back from Sacramento Friday night, St. Bruno's held an event. It was a dinner, but most importantly, there was music by Shane Eriks, and I had not heard of her. But if you like carpenters and you like, it was beautifully done. It was impressive. I did record one. I'll send it out. But it was a great evening and music that was performed by all. Also, a couple of us attended on Saturday the Relay for Life, which was held at Parkside. And as you know, that has begun. And obviously, I think, as I said there, and I'll say here, that is one thing, irregardless, we all get behind and stand behind and rally behind for that. Also, Monday, some of us attended a ribbon cutting. First one we've had in a long time in the city at Planet Fitness. Met the franchisee owners, which were Lynn and Eric, and were incredible folks. And as I mentioned there, the general manager of that facility is just moved in, is a resident now of San Bruno. So I wanted to mention that as well, just some of the things I and some of our council members have been doing. And what I did not know until I came home last night, and there was a envelope to my home that said to my neighbor, my address, and it said, this was yesterday, so it said open 9/28/21. So I thought, okay, do I honor the request and not open it? Or do I actually honor it? And I did. I honored it, and I opened it today to find that it is Happy National Neighbor Day. So that was something I got educated today, and I'm glad I kept the desire of the sender. So anyway, to all, which we'll know now for next year, Happy National Neighbor Day. So with that said, wish all of you the very best, a good, healthy, happy week. And therefore, we will adjourn this meeting to the next regular city council meeting, which will be held on October the 12th, 2021 at 7 p.m. Everyone be safe, take care, and good night.